Yeah, there's
I keep missing you.
still more chairs.
Supervisors, are we ready?
Ladies, gentlemen,
Ladies and
we'll be ready to
gentlemen,
start.
if you could
Thank
take your
you.
seats, we're about to get started. Good morning, Ken. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Perfect. Supervisors, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. I have turned on the recorder. The time is now 9:31 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today is Monday, June 10th, 2024. The first item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Rich Bracco, Ernest Booker,
Present.
Jill Pizarnik, and Cheryl Harmon Tarana. We do have Supervisor Ken Smaha with us via Teams. Supervisors. At this time, we would need a motion to allow Ken to participate and vote via Teams.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, thank you.
On behalf of District Management is myself, Belinda Blandon. District Council Andy Cohen is present. District Engineer Rick Schafaker is present. Field Manager Keith Livermore is present. We do have Julie Cortina on behalf of Vesta Property Services with us. And for the record, we do have audience members present as well. John is actually here, I didn't see him.
John's
Oh, hey, John. And we do have John Fowler with us for landscaping inspection services. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please stand for the pledge.
Please remove your hats.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Belinda, before we start, I don't know how many of you had ever met Diane Blasemat, but Diane was a member of the Venetian community for many, many years, and unfortunately, she passed away about 10 days ago. She worked on several committees here. She worked on the POA. She worked on the Social and Dining Committee, which is part of the CDD, and I worked with her on that committee for about 5 or 6 years. She was a woman who always would give her opinion and was never afraid of doing that, and I respected her. And I'd like to send our sympathies to her husband, Tony, and to the family with good memories of Diane, and Diane, rest in peace.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Our first speaker is Anthony DeMeo.
Thank you. Good morning, CDD Board. My name is Anthony DeMeo. I am a sitting member of the POA Board. I'm here today to speak about the buffering on the Ajax. Okay, as you know, on November 21st, 2023, the POA requested the CA for a copy of the Ajax agreement. And finally, after much prodding, on February 5th, 2024, a copy was provided to us. This was the first time the POA Board and the community, for the most part, learned about this $50,000 cash payment to the CA, and that there was a large amount still available on deposit. This deposit was over 12 years ago, started in 2012. Okay, at that time, the POA offered to work with the CA to install additional buffering on the golf course fairway on berm 4. The POA Board would not have known about the Ajax agreement and the buffering funds if they had not obtained a copy of the agreement from the CA. The Ajax agreement was done in good faith by buffering along the 4th fairway berm. The recent construction along our access road by the city, okay, it kind of tore up all our green space on the access road. It took out a lot of stuff when they put the road back. Okay, so it left a big opening again to reopen this Ajax problem, even worse than it was before. Okay, let me see, and it critically impacted all the buffering in the neighborhood. The POA worked with the City of Venice to repair and restore needed vegetation and security fencing with irrigation to access road for the homes on the cul-de-sac of Mestry Place, which was most affected at that time, at no cost to the community at all. It was done, the city agreed, they made a mistake, and they're making good on it. And the CDD is giving us easement that we're working on to put the irrigation in, which I appreciate. There's no use putting shrubbery in if we don't have the irrigation. Okay. Excuse me. With recent assessments, the CDD imposed on the community of $1,000 per household, there should be more than enough money from this assessment to do all outside buffering needed. And legally, the CDD cannot do anything on private property. Okay, but the POA can. So we offered unanimously, the POA Board unanimously agreed to work with the CA, and they could be in charge of it and get this buffering done for the community, for the people affected on Montaluna, Cipriani, and Monalago. Okay? Excuse me, get back to my messages. Forgive me, I've been studying this all night. Okay. If you accept these funds, may I finish? It's only about 10 words.
Go ahead.
Okay. If you accept these funds with the stipulations imposed by the CA, you'll be further dividing this community, and it would be an injustice to those who need and are affected most by this buffering not being done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jerry Lewis.
Not necessary. Anyway, I wanted to thank the CDD supervisors for responding individually to my email relative to the noise that the pickleball court is making, which is heard on Torcello Court, which is where I live. I appreciate your engagement to mitigate the constant noise, and while I understand that some neighbors can hear pickleball in their home, noise in their home, and or in their lanais, I do not. But I do hear it often when walking Kylo on Torcello Court, as I've spoken with a number of you board members individually about this. The noise emanating from the pickleball courts is sometimes loud, but more often continuous banging from the pickleball play. Not surprising to any of us. Surprising that we could hear it that far, at least from my perspective. On 2 occasions, there was some verbal altercations at the pickleball court, which was heard on Torcello Court. Pretty nasty stuff. I know nobody wants that. The board, the residents, neighbors. Not a good sight. I am hopefully with your support, further altercations at the court and the noise will be mitigated. As I also mentioned, I support resident use and enjoyment of all recreational activities at VGRC. However, one neighbor's enjoyment should not negatively impact another neighbor's enjoyment. After all, we came here to Florida to enjoy the rest of our lives. So I ask you to please, with dispatch, take care of this. And whatever you need to do to make sure that we get the right solution, whatever time that takes, is more important than doing it tomorrow. Thank you very much for responding to my email. I really appreciate it and appreciate your support. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lee Parati.
Good morning, my name is Lee Parati. I'm here to echo what Tony DeMeo said in such an enlightening way, and I hope that the board listens to this. I also would like to bring your attention to the fact that I think that LPM is doing a fabulous job landscaping. The only thing that I regret is that the irrigation system doesn't seem to be functioning well, because a lot of those beautiful plants are dying, and I think that we need to check that out so that we continue to have, listen, we need good curb appeal in order for our houses to sell at a good price when the time comes. Thank you very much, and thank you, Tony, for what you said, because I think you made it clear to all of us what needs to be done. And in terms of the pickleball, I wonder if it would help if we restricted the hours that pickleball could be played.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rich Goodman.
This is a quick one today. I just have an email regarding landscaping that I'd like to put into the record, please.
Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Joe Brown.
Mind if I sit down? I got a bad leg.
You can sit, Joe.
Thanks. My name is Joe Brown, and I live at 266 Montaluna, and I've lived there for 8 years. So, full disclosure, I'm a member of the Community Association Board, but I want to talk to you about the fact that I live on Montaluna. My purpose today is to give you some of my observation after living there for 8 years about the situation with the berm and the whole form. And hopefully I can prevent unnecessary expenditure of the funds. I'm pretty fortunate, actually. I have a big berm in the back of my house. And so are a lot of other residents alongside me. We don't really see anything to do with the factories. But there are 4 disruptions that I need to talk to you about. One is noise, smoke, smell, and light, all right? So the noise is the biggest problem. And that's because we have many factories going all the way up to Magnolia North now. And the noise filters down around the trees, over the trees, through the trees, when the factories are operating, which is not all the time. And they do tell us when they're gonna operate at night. But, I don't believe that trees are gonna stop that noise. That noise is gonna come through. You have to put trees or whatever at the source of the noise. So second is the smoke. The smoke rises above the trees when the factory is in operation, which is not a lot, but it happens occasionally. So the operative thing here is it rises above the trees. So the only way you're going to stop that with trees is put redwoods up there because the smoke is gonna get above the trees. Okay. So next is smell. A lot of people don't know this probably because I do, because sometimes there's asphalt processing there and the smell comes through when the wind is blowing from the north, which is mostly in the wintertime. So believe me, I've observed all of this process. So it happens, it's a bit stinky and it's not very nice, but it doesn't last long and you get back in the house. So last is light. Light is a problem, okay? So I even see the glow from where I am. And it comes through the trees, okay? When that light is on, because it's pretty intense, no matter where you are, but especially if you can see through the gap in the tree, you're gonna see the light. And I don't believe that a lot of trees are gonna help that unless there's stands and stands of them all over the place. I think the best way to mitigate that problem is to go to the factories and talk to them in an unthreatening way as a neighbor. And I would see it as a combination of people from all three organizations because there's connections. And we've done that before, I understand. We've gone to the factory and said, hey, this noise, the backup trucks, and they fixed it. So what I'd like to see is the organization come together and go to the factory and make that appointment. And I'm sure they'll be able to either turn the light around, put a filter up, or some way help us. That's all.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, good, thank you.
Our next speaker is Ruth Cordner.
I can't say. It's okay.
Good morning supervisors, and Rich, thank you for paying tribute to Diane. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It was very nice. I guess you all know why I'm here. I live on Montaluna. I am one of many people that are impacted. It's not just me, it's also Cipriani people and Montelargo people. The photos that you see on this document, they're not taken from my lanai. The one on the left is taken from another neighbor who is a little further down, and that's what she sees at night. The one on the right, it's not a very good shot because I took it off of the video. Another neighbor sent me a video where it showed smoke coming up through the lights. So that's the smoke that Joe was speaking about. Back in February, there was a possibility the funds were going to be turned over. POA representatives asked the CA to come with them to Heritage to talk about building the berm, and that kind of fell through. But just before that meeting was to commence, and about 2 hours before that meeting commenced, I was able to go around and just get a quick survey for some people of what they see. There was only 10 homes that lived near me because I only had an hour. Only one individual said that the lights didn't bother that person so much. But when you play golf, you can see all the trees in the back of that person's house. So of course the trees do help mitigate the lights because the other neighbors don't have the amount of trees that that person has. So that would help. I'm a little disappointed that you guys got put in the middle of it. This is not a CDD issue. And by kicking the can down the road and putting it in your lap, I felt that that was unjust. It should go back to who is responsible for it, which is the CA. And I do hope that the CA does what's right for people. We're all here to support this community and work with this community and take care of the residents. And it does not look good when some leaders don't want to put the community first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Our next speaker is Darlene Schimber.
Good morning, everybody. I'm not going to talk about the buffering today. I do want to talk a little bit about pickleball because Jerry mentioned a lot of the things that I was going to say, but an incident occurred at the pickleball courts that required intervention by one of the ambassadors. The people on the courts refused to follow the rules, and it almost ended up in an altercation with very foul language being used, which could have been heard by residents who are affected by the noise issue. First and foremost, who's minding the store there? There's no supervision, there's no one in charge, and there's nobody that is held responsible for the things that go wrong there. What happens when something like this happens? What is the implication and what are they going to be fined? Are they going to be suspended? Are they going to be, what happens when something like this happens? This is a community of residents, and we all want to enjoy what you have provided to us. But this is leaving a very sour taste in a lot of residents' mouths, the things that are going on that pickleball court. We've had tennis for 22 years. We have never had any complaints about the tennis community. And yet now, since these pickleball courts have been put in, there have been so many complaints about them, and not just for the noise, it's for other things as well. If people don't want to abide by the rules, then they should be suspended from all of the amenities in this river club. The rules are put there for a purpose, but if you have nobody watching what's going on, and, you know, I've got to say, I think Dave is really falling behind and he's not doing his job when it comes to these pickleball courts. We don't need them open till 9 o'clock at night. 6 o'clock is plenty for all of us, because when season happens, they're going to be very busy, and it's going to be, and I think that's what we have to think about when we're talking about hours for the pickleball courts. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rose Campa.
Good morning. My name is Rose Canepa, and I live on Monte Largo, and I'm one of the few original homeowners of that block. Years ago, I attended two meetings at the Venice City Hall regarding the Ajax disturbance. At that time, Ajax representatives were present, and they offered to help us. They were professional, attentive, and they offered a solution. They offered the berm. They also stated that, number one, we're your neighbors and we want to keep a good relationship. Number two, they said that we want to help mitigate the situation while at the same time functioning in our business. I wasn't aware of any money that was offered until recently. I also wasn't aware that part of that money went for Burano Court. Why Burano Court? Montaluna and Montelargo are directly affected by the disturbance and situation. Past neighbors have moved out of the community based on the situation. At that time, I know for a fact that these neighbors reached out to the community and they fought for some kind of help, and it fell on deaf ears. Please take our concerns into consideration and listen to the people who are directly affected by the noise, the fumes, and the disturbing lights, and allow us to use the money as it was originally intended for. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Steve Thomaston.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Steve Thomaston, 329 Montaluna. Richie, I appreciate the kind words, but I need to expound a little bit. I realize that there's no venue within the community, either through the community association, through the POA, or through the CDD, to announce the demise of any of our residents, so I felt compelled to speak. Diane Basma was a resident of the Venetian Golf and River Club and former HOA and POA board member and a tireless volunteer. She passed away on May 29th of this year after a short but aggressive battle with cancer. She served as the vice president of the POA for 2 years and 6 years as the director. She also held the position of Tiziano HOA board president and participated in many committees dedicated to the upkeep and social engagement of the community. Diane found great joy in her work, and according to our daughter, she would arrange for her schedule around all the board meetings and everything so she could participate. Diane took the responsibility serious, and it provided purpose and meaning to her life. Diane and her husband, Anthony Basman, of 49 and a half years, joined the community part-time in 2005 and later retired permanently in 2013. In addition to Anthony, Diane is survived by her daughter, Michelle Focus of Charlotte, North Carolina, and her son, Tony Basman of Jacksonville, Florida. If you'd like to honor Diane and her service to the community, her family is collecting donations to the American Cancer Society. You can donate in her name, Diane Basman, by visiting donate.cancer.org/. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thanks.
And our final speaker is Valerie Fullerton.
I'm Valerie, excuse me, I'm Valerie Fullerton. I live at 117 Tiziano Way. I have never done this before and I don't like it, but I have an opinion. From what I understand, there is a fact that Ajax donated $50,000 to resolve the perm issue. I don't live anywhere near it. I know people who do, and I know I'd be very distressed if I were living there. And what I understand was that money was specifically donated, all of it, to take care of the noise, the berm, all of it. Ajax did something very, very commendable. From what I understand, not much has happened. It's been going on for years and years. I don't understand that. I've never lived in a community like this before, and I'm getting used to knowing that there's some technicalities that come with it. My hope is that this will be directly resolved with what Ajax gave the money for. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you. There being no further speakers signed in, we're gonna close out public comment and move forward with our agenda. Supervisors, we do have item number 4, which is the Q&A of potential candidates for the general manager position. Do we want to jump into that item or jump into the first business item, which is item number 6A, which is discussion regarding the community association funds?
I'd like to put something ahead of all of that,
Sure.
because we have an employee here
Can
that,
you use the mic, Rich, please?
I'm sorry. We have someone here who needs to be recognized for something that was done about a week and a half or so, and I'm gonna ask Keith to help us out with this.
My pleasure. You know, with the guards, we're quick when we have a problem with them and we don't, jump up pretty quick. But we don't praise enough, okay? Young lady back here in the back, Bernadette Gilchrist.
Yes.
She was on patrol when the fire broke out at the house. And I just wanted to thank her and bring her to the community. If it hadn't been for her quick response, and there probably would have been some more houses that would have been up in flames. So when you see them out there on patrol, they're out there. We've had 3 fires here on the Venetian, okay? 2 of them were stopped by patrolmen. All right, 1, of course, we know what happened out here in the forest. So, but it's a quick response, and I just want to thank you so much for watching our
I never get to see any of your faces. I'm a 3rd shift guard, so, and I rarely do I see a human unless you're a dog walker. So it's nice to see all of you, and it's my pleasure to serve you. And I am your full-time overnight guard where many of you are sleeping. And it was a tragedy, and it felt personal to watch that and see that go down. So thank you all.
Thank you.
So is the board in agreement with shifting the agenda a little bit?
Sure.
Since we do have a majority of the audience here for the discussion regarding the community association funds?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna move into line item number 6A, which is the discussion regarding the community association funds. Rich, do you want to lead in this conversation?
Sure. The
Use the
community
mic, Rich,
association,
because I don't think the
I
board can
gave
hear
it
you.
to Keith and he ran away with it.
You might have to turn it on the Rich.
Thank you. Okay, I invited the members of the community association to be here this morning to speak to the issue of the funds and the offer to send those funds to the CDD. Also, in speaking with Marshall Happer, who had addressed this board a meeting or 2 ago about the issue, I encouraged him and said it was fine for him to come and to give an overview of the POA's view on these funds. And in as much as the Community Association hasn't had an opportunity to speak, I saw Tom Jones here. I'm going to ask him if he would like to, there he is, if he would like to address the audience with the Community Association's view on this money and some background on it, and I have a feeling some other people are going to speak as well. Okay, Tom?
Thank you, Rich, and good morning to all of you on the CDD board. Can you hear me? Okay. I believe most of you are familiar with the agreement based on the number of emails that have gone around. So I'd like to focus on just a couple of few points. They are, number one, the history of Venice Minerals and Ajax paving agreements, both of which provided funds for landscape buffering in our community. Number two, the Ajax agreement specifics. Number three, the Community Association's involvement with Ajax. And number four, the Ajax $50,000 payment to the Community Association. So background, in 2009, Venice Minerals, who at the time owned most of the land immediately to the north of our community, paid the Community Association, the VGRCCA, $35,000 for a landscape buffer. This money was used to plant additional trees on the berm on the north side of golf course hole number 4. WCI, who owned the golf course then, agreed to this landscaping. Many of the trees eventually died from lack of irrigation and other factors, I should note. Then in 2012, Ajax Paving made an agreement with the Community Association to pay $50,000 in exchange for our support for their annexation into the city of Venice. This agreement was with the Community Association only, as the POA at the time was still under developer control. The agreement called for the installation of trees to buffer a view corridor between BGRC and Ajax. And I will read here from the agreement the language. The purpose of the trees is to buffer a view corridor between the Venetian properties and the Ajax property. That's all it specifies. There is no document that I know of that calls for an earmarking of money anywhere along the view corridor. Jerry Jasper is going to speak, and I think he can speak much more intelligently on this subject than I can. So the view corridor on the Community Association, the Venetian Gulf and River Club's northern boundary is just under 4,000 feet long, with the golf course berm being about 1,300 feet of this, and the rest is the Otello Wall, which is on CDD property. As the golf course berm had received additional buffering 3 years earlier, as I mentioned, as part of the Venice Minerals agreement, and WCI had just installed the Otello Wall, the Community Association worked with WCI, and we paid WCI $12,135 of the $50,000, and this was used to plant larger oak trees along the Otello Wall. So instead of small ones, we got big ones. And again, that Otello Wall is the most extensive part of our northern boundary. And the wall screens people who live on Martelago, Asti, Verano, Cipriani, a very large neighborhood compared to what is screened by the berm on the golf course. These trees were planted in the fall of 2013, and the remaining $37,865 was placed in a reserve account, which is where it remains today. Excuse me. So I'd like to make note of one historic point here again with the Ajax money. The additional amount paid for landscaping on CDD property. The Community Association feels the balance should be used in the same way. Our board voted unanimously that the funds cannot be spent on private property, or more specifically, on the golf course. Contrary to what has been erroneously stated, the Ajax agreement was never kept a secret. The POA board was involved starting in 2011, and that board submitted a letter in support of the Ajax agreement to the city council in 2013. The Ajax agreement was discussed at several CDD board meetings between 2010 and 2012. And in the same time period, the community association was talking about it at multiple board meetings. We've included it in our minutes, financial statements, and it was in the Parcels newsletter in December of 2011. With the need for new and replacement landscaping in our community since the hurricane, this is an appropriate time to put the remaining funds to use. As the CDD is our largest landowner and has several landscape projects in the planning phase, you're in the best position to do this. I'd also like to mention the question of interest on the remaining Ajax funds, which has been brought up. Our treasurer calculated that between 2013 and earlier this year, there was about $650 of interest earned on the money. Over the same time period, the community association has spent $27,000 on community betterment projects in the Venetian Golf and River Club. Examples: the community association paid the POA or on their behalf for boardwalk nature signs, benches, and for half of the commercial development survey. The community association paid the CDD or on their behalf for the lighted flagpole at the entrance of our community, for benches, bike racks, upgrades to the Wi-Fi system, and for this sound system right here that we're using today. If there's a question on where the interest went, I think this should answer it. So in summary, this is really a very simple issue. The community association is asking the CDD to accept our gift to improve the landscape buffering on CDD property, or on a project which your board feels will benefit the most number of Venetian residents. So that's what I have to say. Are there any questions from the board about any of this?
I have a couple of questions. Okay, you are gifting this money to the CDD, is that correct?
That's correct.
It's a unencumbered gift.
Other than the request.
Wait. Unencumbered, is it?
Well, other than we don't want it used on private property, which I guess is redundant because the CDD can't do that either.
Okay, so I just want to make sure there are no restrictions.
No.
If we decide to accept these funds.
Well, we have restrictions of our own as to what the community association wishes to place on it. I just heard the one thing mentioned, which would apply to us anyway, whether they had said that or not. And I have no idea what the board's going to do, but if you decide to take the funds, we have our own restrictions as to what CDD can and can't do and things along those lines with the funds. But yes, we would utilize the funds as we would be restricted to utilize any other CDD funds, if that's your choice.
So it'd be for the general welfare of this community.
Yes.
Okay, I have no problem. If that's the understanding.
The restrictions, like we've all talked about in the past, can't use it on private property. You know, can't use it to throw a personal party for your attorney, things like that. College tuition, I got that.
Okay. Tom, a quick question, I think, although it may be for Jerry, and Joe Brown alluded to this. Has anybody called Ajax and asked them to turn the light down or put a hood on it or shut it off in there? Or must they keep it on?
I'll let Jerry answer that question, Joe. But that really is a side issue to the whole question.
I understand,
Because
Yeah.
it really is a question of the money was given to the community association with the restriction, with the note that I mentioned about the view corridor. Okay, now the issues that Joe brought up about smoke and noise and other issues as well as light. Yeah, there is an issue with our neighbors to the north. Although were you here when Venice Minerals had Mount Venice? Okay, many of us remember how the dirt and sand blew constantly over the community for that amount. That's over, fortunately.
Tom. There we go. Tom, I know Jerry's gonna have some things to say, but if this money were to be accepted by the CDD, and you mentioned the Otello Wall, which has been something that has been discussed at meetings over the last 8 years that I've been on this board. To use that money effectively along the Otello Wall, do you think that that would be certainly in keeping with, not the restrictions, but with the goal of this money that was originally passed on from Ajax to the CA?
Rich, the original intent of the agreement talks about the view corridor. Now, keep in mind that was 2011 and 12 when this agreement was being written. If the CDD, on receipt of this money, feels that the Otello Wall is satisfactorily buffered, but as I said, we're not putting strings on it. If you feel there's more need for buffering along Laurel Road or wherever else you feel could benefit the most number of Venetian residents, we'll leave that to your discretion.
Okay.
The subject, though, of all those different things and about the stipulations, which there really weren't any other than this view corridor, I believe Jerry is going to talk to that.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Any other questions for Tom? No. Jerry?
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Good morning. Is this on? Okay. On May 9, I sent an email to the Board of Supervisors regarding the Communities Association's surplus funds left over from what is known as the Ajax agreement. I'm here today to stress just one point addressed in that email, in addition, one that was not. I would like to emphasize that there are no conditions imposed by the Ajax agreement on the use of the remaining $37,865. This fact was established in an exchange of emails between Ajax attorney Chris Van Heist and me, dated April 22 and April 19, 2013, respectively. A copy of that email exchange was attached to my May 9th email to the Board of Supervisors. Let me summarize what led up to that email exchange and why it was considered important both then and now. Back in April 2013, one of the CDD supervisors suggested the Community Association's $37,865 surplus funds from the Otello Wall tree buffer installation be turned over to the CDD. The reasoning was since the tree buffer was located on property owned by the CDD, any excess funds related to the installation should also become the property of the CDD. Sometime before this, I had discussed with Jeff Russell, the attorney, the Ajax attorney with whom I negotiated the Ajax agreement, regarding the fact that the tree buffer was now being mainly funded by WCI, meaning that a good portion of the $50,000 payment from Ajax would not be spent on the buffer. At the time, Jeff assured me that the full payment would be made to the Community Association, even though a major portion of that payment would not be used for the tree buffer installation. Again, assuming the Community Association continued to meet the support obligations under that agreement. This brings us to the April 22, 2013 CDD Board of Supervisors meeting, where the ownership of the $37,865 was discussed. I might add, in the interim, Jeff Russell had passed away. Chris Van Heist had replaced Jeff as Ajax attorney and confirmed Jeff's and my agreement per the email exchange mentioned above. When the CDD Board of Supervisors was provided with this email exchange, and not just recently, but back in 2013, they determined that they had no claim on the surplus funds it was clear to them that this email exchange had untied any requirement that might have existed as to how the $50,000 payment was to be spent. In summary, should the CDD accept the turnover of the residual $37,865, it comes with no stipulation under the Ajax agreement as to how the funds can be used. In essence, any conditions placed on the use of the funds would be those imposed by the community association, not by the Ajax agreement. A second point, well, more of a suggestion, which has already been mentioned a couple of times here, is that over the years, I have found that Ajax will go the extra mile to be a good neighbor. May I suggest that those concerned with the Ajax satellites shining through the trees at a number 4 berm approach Ajax in a friendly manner and ask what they might do to mitigate the problem. While my dealings with them were prior to the appointment of the present general manager, Mickey Cox, I would be surprised if their good neighbor corporate philosophy is not still very important to them. Good. That's all I have. Is there any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Jerry?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question, maybe it's more for Tom than Jerry. Tom and Jerry.
That's not the first time.
So, given that the community association represents its members, I won't say the whole community, but its members, primarily for issues, outside our community, and they do a great job with many of those. I guess I don't appreciate why this issue is so contentious, and why, given that there are some residents who are affected by Ajax outside our walls, why the community association seems to be unwilling to either want to talk with the golf club management or Ajax on behalf of its members, our members, to help mitigate the problem. I just don't have an appreciation for that. In fact, they voted specifically that this money couldn't be used for private property, which is burned for, is golf club property. And I just don't have a full appreciation for that. Tom, maybe you can elaborate.
Ken, the situation with the golf course, our past president did have a discussion with Heritage Golf regarding this. Their position on landscaping on that berm, as I understand, they have put off any decision for an extended period. As far as our,
Even if the association were willing to pay for it?
that was not the discussion point. It was simply about whether or not they would even allow trees to be planted on there. The community association board voted to not spend money on private property in following with what the CDD had determined. We feel that's a legitimate position to take. As far
We didn't determine it, we legally can't, but the community association could if they chose to.
That's correct, and we voted that we did not want to.
And the money's there. I guess I just don't appreciate why the community association isn't willing to take this further before giving the money away.
What we're trying to do on this, Ken, is provide the money to the largest landowner in the community. The community association doesn't own any land. Okay, we're trying to provide it to the CDD, who is where the original part of the $50,000 went. It was spent on CDD property along the Othello Wall. And what we're saying is the balance of that $50,000 should also be spent on CDD properties. So there's a historic track record for how this money was spent. The agreement called out the view corridor without specification as to where that corridor is.
Okay, isn't 1,300 feet of that corridor along Burn 4?
It is, that's correct. But remember, Ken, they
So,
received,
again, I know what the association voted. I was at that meeting. I just don't appreciate, I just don't understand why the association isn't willing to take this further. I think Joe Brown had a great suggestion that the combination of the association, POA, and the CDD, all send representatives to Ajax to have a conversation. But ultimately, the money is there to be spent to help the situation. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I know what you guys have voted on. I just don't understand it. But it is what it is.
well, again, it's our feeling that spending the money on private property is not the right way to spend this money. The original, as I mentioned, Venice Minerals Agreement put $35,000 into landscaping on that berm. We don't feel there should be more money spent of this agreement on that same area. Right now, it's a moot point because Heritage has not agreed to allow it. But beyond that, your suggestion of having discussions with Ajax makes a lot of sense, Ken, and I think it's a very good one. And it's something I believe.
Yeah.
But again, the community association is not a documented body like the POA and the CDD are, who have legal powers within the community.
Well, it has more flexibility than the CDD in terms of this particular issue.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Any other questions, supervisors?
Any questions for Jerry or for Tom or? Nope. Marshall, would you like to give us an overview of?
Yes, sir.
The POA's view?
Just a minute, please. Would you pass that out to the board, please? I will. Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I stay seated? Do you mind if I stay seated?
No problem at all.
Okay. Almost without exception, every issue that seems to be complicated is not really, once you understand what the actual facts are. And what I've given you, and I'm gonna go through it, is what I believe are the uncontroverted facts about this issue that will lead us to what I hope is the right conclusion. Number one, the zoning of this property has been a disaster.
I'm not sure, is your mic on?
It is, Marcia, you just have to tilt it.
All right, is this better?
Yes.
The zoning of our property was the first problem. We were faced with a single-family development called the Venetian, directly adjoining a major industrial, heavy industrial use and zoning. And nobody in their right mind would have those two zonings next to each other without some transition and some buffering. There's absolutely no buffering between the Venetian property and it's about 350 acres up there. And the problem is that it existed, and those businesses existed before the Venetian started in 2002. But the businesses that are up there are Miami Valley Concrete Block Plant is the closest one. Then we have what was old mining property, which is now going to be the city booster property with 24/7 generators is going to be there.
then across the street and actually on both sides of Gene Green Road is Apex Asphalt Plant and the Ajax Asphalt Plant. And they each, by the way, behind them have multi-acre pits that they used to actually dig stuff to use in the making of asphalt. And then north of that is a concrete recycling plant. So we have a lot of nuisance type stuff, 350 acres or more north of us, which was a zoning mistake. And we got, the only thing between us and that property is about a 50-acre access road that we have that runs the perimeter of the Venetian. Yes.
And these were pre-existing uses.
Some of them were the Venice mining, which was the biggest nuisance at the time, was there at least 10 years before us.
Okay.
And so he was actually crushing rocks all day long, every day. And in 2009, in the recession, when he couldn't sell the rock dust that he was making, he ended up with a huge mountain. I probably sent y'all copies of photos of how awful it looked, because that was blowing into the land eyes on everybody's place here. So Ajax is a nuisance. However, it didn't come to us, we came to it.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit of a problem. Now, the only reason you and I know about this right now is that we asked for, the POA asked for a copy of the Ajax agreement. We knew some agreement had been made, and we knew that the Venetian had supported the annexation of Ajax into the city. But nobody knew that the community association got a $50,000 cash payment. If it had been public in the Venetian, I would have known about it, and you would have known about it. And right now, I think it's clear that, except for the few people who were involved with the community association board, and Tom and Jerry obviously were there from the beginning, we didn't know about it. So I found out about it from Roger Efron on February 5th, when he gave me a copy of the agreement, and that's how it got to be public. It's clear from the agreement that the $50,000 was not a bribe for the community association. That would have been illegal. It was supposed to be buffering for Ajax, for the view corridor between the Ajax nuisance and the Venetian. Now, there are two view corridors between the Ajax and actually the APAC asphalt plant as well, and the Venetian. One is the Otello wall in that area at the end of Montelargo. The other view corridor is 1,500 feet, not 1,300 feet, that we adjoin what is the old mining property and now is the city booster property, and that is the Fourth Fairway berm, which is the only high space. That berm is, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 feet higher than our access road. So it is the only thing that is up in the air that has any ability to buffer anything between the Venetian and thing. Now, in 2009, it is correct that we paid WCI to put 55 cedar trees in that area and to irrigate them. And when I went up there about a month or so ago with the representative of the community association, I only found 4 cedar trees still there, and almost none of the irrigation was operative. Now, WCI let us down on that, and I don't play golf, so I hadn't been up there regularly on the Fourth Fairway berm. But and you've gotten a lot of photos now showing you what all the gaps are in that 1,500 feet that is looking directly into the Miami Valley concrete block plant, the city booster plant, and then 2 asphalt plants up there. Another fact is, which they just reconfirmed again, is the community association spent $12,135 on the buffering on the Otello wall. And I'm going to tell you, Jerry Jasper did a really good job on that. If you look at it, he's got a nice line of oak trees that have grown pretty well now since 2012. And so that looks to me like it's a pretty good buffered area. There's a gap between it and the Fairway 4 berm that is sort of open. And then there are lots of open places along the Fairway 4 berm. Now, Tom Jones gave us a copy of his August 27, 2013 minutes of the Community Association. We wouldn't have known about it if he hadn't have given it to us. And that wasn't exactly the purpose he gave it to us, but what it says is the Community Association voted the day they got the check that the $37,865 balance was going to be kept for future landscaping between the Venetian Golf and River Club and Ajax paving property. So the Community Association voted in 2013 that the balance of that $50,000 was to be used for Ajax buffering. Now today they're asking you, no, we don't want it used for Ajax buffering. We want you to go use it for something else. They agreed, they passed the resolution, and I guess they now claiming that on April 22nd, they changed that resolution. And now they don't want to do what they agreed to do. There is 1,500 feet. It is uncontroverted. There is 1,500 feet of common property line along that Fairway 4 berm, and that is a view corridor between us and Ajax. Now, you've seen the photos, so you know that that tree line is incomplete. There are gaps in it, and so forth. And God only knows what happened to all the cedar trees that died. We went, after we thought the Community Association was going to work with us to put in some buffering there on the Fairway 4 berm, we set up a meeting with the golf club manager to go ask him, number one, would you participate with us in putting additional buffering on the Fairway 4 berm? And if not, would you permit us to do it? And so the manager said he would have to go to upper management to get authority to answer that question. I went to see him again Friday, and I said, do you have an answer? He says, no. He says, we're expecting our landscape architect. He has a different name for his landscape architect, but that is going to come down here and look at it, and then we will respond to you. So the golf club has not said, no, Venetian, you can't put anything on our berm to protect your homes. So that's an open issue, and it's still a possibility. And in my opinion, if we all, the Community Association and the POA and the CDD all together ask the golf club to let us put buffering there, there's no way the golf club is going to refuse it and want to stay in good graces out here. It is the best place for buffering because they've already Jerry Jasper did a good job of taking care of the Otello wall with those. He's got a really nice line of oak trees there. The POA board, we just found out about it on February 5th. We've been trying to, on behalf of the community, get this done as to what it was agreed to be done originally. We voted to support the Community Association in doing the buffering on the 4th fairway, and we offered to do it for them if they didn't want to do it. And they've come back with the provision that they have here. It is true that on behalf of the homeowners in the Venetian, represented by us, that we think it ought to be used as intended and on that 4th fairway berm. So here's what our request is on behalf of the POA. The POA board respectfully requests on behalf of the homeowners in the Venetian that it represents that the CDD not accept the Ajax buffering funds from the Community Association upon a condition that they not be used for buffering on golf fairway number 4, and instead that the CDD encourage the Community Association to use those funds for the buffering on the golf fairway number 4 berm with or without the assistance of the POA. So that is our position on behalf of the homeowners we represent. And I'm sorry for the conflict here, and I cannot possibly understand why there's almost like a vendetta of the people in the community association against doing something for the homeowners on Montaluna and off of that fairway berm. It's, the money is there. You don't need it. There is a need here, and you've seen it from the photo, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any clarification from Jerry or from Tom or whatever you heard what Marshall had to
Do
say?
you have any questions?
Well, we may, yes.
To who?
Siri says good morning to everybody.
I do have a question, actually, for Jerry and or Tom. Since I've heard conflicting things, could you please tell me on behalf of the community association, has there been a conversation directly with the golf club? And what has been the golf club's response?
That's Tom. I'm not
Tom.
I have not personally met with the golf club, Cheryl. I know there have been conversations with them.
I have.
Thank you.
I have met with the golf club, and Marshall has met with them. And my latest meeting with Jay Pittman specifically dealt with the fourth fairway. And he, after about a week or so, maybe a little bit more, got back to me and said that at this time, Heritage is not considering any additional landscaping in that area. He also brought up specifically irrigation issues, and that he would continue to think about it. It wasn't a definite no, but it certainly was a distant maybe, would be the way I would put it. In my own opinion, in my heart of hearts, the golf course is going to do, at this moment, is going to do nothing in that area at all.
Rich, can I ask you quickly about that one? Was that Jay Pittman's assumption that Heritage would be paying for it?
Correct.
Yes,
Obviously, okay.
yes, because it was on, I said to him, we can't pay for it.
Right.
We can't pay for it simply because of our
Right,
position.
restriction.
And he understood that.
Okay.
So,
But Rich, what
yes,
if somebody else were willing to pay for it? Would they allow it?
that didn't come up.
That's my question.
Why?
Good question, Ken.
Yeah, it needs to come up.
It came up in my meeting with him. And just to make sure I knew what his position was, I met with him last Friday for an update. And he told me we're still waiting for the landscape architect to look at it before we respond to you. So they have not said no, and I can't believe that they will ever say no if we're going to pay for it. And I say we, the community association's money, will have to pay for it if the golf club doesn't want to do anything. But so it's not correct that they've said they're not going to do anything. It's just, what is correct is they haven't said one way or the other. They haven't said no yet. And so it's still an open issue. And I can't possibly believe that if all of us asked that this money be spent for buffering there, that they could possibly refuse it. I just don't believe it.
I'd like to ask Andy a question. If Heritage were to grant the CDD an easement somewhere on that buffer, could CDD funds be expended in such easement?
No.
They couldn't be,
No.
because of the
Still.
fact that it's still an easement, it's a private property, okay. So there's no way, for example, if it's a conservation easement of any kind of
No, I mean,
environmental thing?
It would give us some access rights, which we would need anyway,
Okay.
to enter upon someone else's property, but it's still private property.
Okay, that's different than from, the FPL easement is our property, so that's why we could have put pickleball courts there, because
We
it's
own
our
that
property, it's
property.
their
They had
easement.
an easement over
Okay, I
our
understand,
property.
I had it reversed in my mind, thanks.
Sure.
We're going around in circles here. We have a reluctant party that maintains the money. They do not want to participate in any agreement with, to use these funds for that burn. So again, we're going around in circles here unless the community association says, we will consider that fact and make that request. They control the funds, so what are we doing?
Well, Jerry has something he wants to say.
Marshall. Yeah, just not from what the golf course will do or not do, but from a practical point of view, it's already been proven that putting trees on that buffer where there's already existing canopy trees and planting trees in the shade of canopy trees and so on, that was basically, and then disease come in. That's what really hit those trees first. And so, if you put that on golf course property, there's no guarantee whatsoever they'll be maintained it anyway. They could write it in agreement and so on. That's what happened before. They got infested. And basically they were treated once. The community association agreed to pay half of the golf course. After that, they were just left alone. So to take and attempt to plant trees without taking off the present buffer, to plant trees underneath existing canopy trees and expect them to fill in this hole and fill in that hole is just not a practical matter by my.
So we're not going anywhere.
Any other questions from the board?
What about hedges or something?
Say that again, Ken?
What about hedges? Next, well,
I think the bigger issue is the lighting, and a hedge isn't gonna help the lighting issue because they're already, if you stand on Ford, there are large trees there. There are some gaps, but it's because of the growth issues and the fact that nothing may grow there. It's clear to me that the golf club is very hesitant to do anything with or without our money. So that to me is pretty clear.
Yeah, I think so. Any other questions for either the community association or the POA?
It is 10:41, supervisors. We do have a hefty agenda.
Yes.
Still with several items to cover, and I do believe that Ken is on a time limit today as well.
Yes, yes.
If you plan on taking any action on this issue, now would be the time to take that action.
Can I suggest that, as Joe Brown suggested, that a representative of each of the three groups goes again and talks to Jay Pittman at the golf club? Is there any fruit to be gained in that?
I have an open conversation with Jay Pittman on a regular basis. I have no problem speaking with him again, but I don't know how much weight that's going to bear on him. Certainly, I'll do that. But that's really not the issue. The issue is, let's get right to the issue. The issue is $37,000 that the community association wants to gift to the CDD.
unrestricted.
Unrestricted, but I see it as it's going to be used for the betterment of as many people as possible in this community.
Yes.
Right now, that money is sitting in an account. It's not doing anything. If it comes to us and we accept it, we have to make a pledge to the community that we're going to do beautification with it in some fashion. That's my feeling about it. How do the rest of you feel?
I think
That's a
if the-
restriction. That's a restriction, and we can't have that. It's an unrestricted gift.
I think that,
That's what he said.
can we say though that, my understanding is you want to gift the money to us, but you would prefer it be used for buffering in some area, whether it's Laurel Road, whether it's the Atella Wall, somewhere where residents will be buffered from what is going on around us. And can we say that would be our intent without putting a restriction on it?
Well, I think the minute you say that that's your intent, you pretty much put a restriction on yourself.
Yes.
Someone's gonna pull those minutes and say, this was your intent, why are you using it to pave that road over there? Something along those lines. So, I think that any expression of intent or restriction that you even self-impose upon yourself will tag along with those funds.
So we need to just face the real issue. Do we want the money or not? We either vote it up or down. Because we've spent almost 2 hours.
Well, if we're gonna move on it, then, I'll make a motion that we accept the money from the community association.
Second. You can't do that.
Was there a second?
Second, I said.
Now, we can have a discussion on it.
So Rich,
Yes, Ken?
hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so given that we can't spend any money on public property,
Private.
it just seems like until Heritage has been talked to again or makes a decision about allowing someone else to fund some buffer property there, I don't know why we wouldn't hold off accepting the funds until it was clear what our options are in that area.
The only way we're gonna bring this discussion to some sort of an end is to have a motion and then let's see what happens with it. As Ernest said, we've been dealing with it for quite a bit of time. We have a lot of things in front of us as well. So the only way we can put it to bed is to have it as a motion.
But I think what Ken is saying is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, is that you're leaning toward declining the motion with the request that we make a formal request to Heritage to say, we will give you money to fix the fourth berm and to add to the fourth berm. Will you or will you not accept it? Because I think if the golf course would come back, which is why I asked the question, and would say specifically, we will not take your money to work on the berm, on the fourth hole, then I have no qualms accepting the money from the community association for the betterment of the community. So,
But, Andy, a question.
Yes, I'm in the same place.
Okay, a question.
Once the CA no longer has the funds, then those options are off the table.
Yes. Yes.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, just piggybacking on what Cheryl has said. We can't use money on private property.
Correct.
Can we give it? Can we do what Cheryl is suggesting?
Take the money, give it to the golf club and say, plant some trees?
Yeah.
No.
and that was not what I was suggesting.
I didn't think it
Sorry,
was.
I was suggesting that the community association get a definitive answer from the golf club saying, yes, we will accept your money to plant trees on the fourth hole, or no, we will not. Because I think that they've been kind of wishy-washy about we're still looking at our landscape architects. My concern is that if the CDD takes the money, takes the gift of the money, and the Heritage Golf Club comes back in a month and says, okay, we'll take $37,000 to plant trees, we can't give it to them.
Correct.
So that was my
So do you want to
comment is,
table this until we get it?
And
I would like
did
the CA
understand
to
that.
get a formal answer from the golf club. If we give you money, will you use it on the fourth hole? Yes or no? Because
All right, so
I'm
you
not
want,
clear
are
on
you
that.
suggesting that we table this until the community association speaks with her?
Ladies and gentlemen, we really need to allow the board to hold their discussion. There's a lot of sidebar conversations, and we are recording this meeting. We ask that you please step outside if you need to have a sidebar conversation. We do need to allow the board to conduct its business and to hold discussions.
So I will follow up the last question by saying to you, Rich, since you've had the most recent conversation with the golf club, do you believe they will accept money to work on the fourth hole on that berm? I mean, has he led you to believe yes or no?
He hasn't led me to believe either way on that issue. I was looking into his wallet for the money. That's what I was doing. So I was not looking to spend our money or anybody else's. I wanted them to step up.
So Cheryl, you basically say the community association should go into the golf club and request, propose that offer, that we will do the improvements necessary to address this nuisance, really. That's what.
But, I mean, we can suggest that, but we can't make the community
No, we
association
can't.
do anything.
We can't make them, but if the three organizations go together to the golf club, then that's a lot of pressure on them. I don't know why they wouldn't allow the community association to fund, some buffer. It doesn't have to cost $37,000, maybe it's $10,000, I don't know. But once we take the money and the CA no longer has it, that takes some options off the table. And I don't know why we want to do that yet.
I agree with you, Ken.
Okay, then I'll tell you what, let's bring this to an end. I'll withdraw the motion. And,
I'll withdraw the second.
and what I will do is say to Marshall, say to Tom, that the three of us get together and go in to see Jay Pittman and have this discussion.
Great suggestion.
Thank you, John.
And, it doesn't necessarily need to be Marshall, it doesn't necessarily need to be Tom, it can be somebody else from the association that's there. But if that's an agreement, I will speak with Jay today and set up a meeting as soon as possible. Does that work for you, Marshall? Does that work? Tom, does that work for you?
It concerns the community association because we voted to not spend money on the golf course. We don't feel that's the proper place for public funds to benefit a private enterprise. There are homes on Montaluna that are affected by the light, but there are far more homes affected by the light that would not be assisted by anything that goes on that berm. And the position then of the community association is that we don't want the money to go to a private enterprise. Whether it be.
Even though it's for the betterment of residents in our community.
We want it to go to the betterment of residents in the Venetian community. We think the CDD is the best avenue to get that done. Because you have the most amount of land and you have the most number of places, not necessarily all along the northern border, who can use and be benefited. And as Jerry has pointed out, any restriction of that for the view corridor stipulation have been removed. So there is not an obligation that this money be strictly used on the view corridor. So the community association is asking the CDD to take the money to benefit community residents somewhere in the community as you see fit.
So Tom, you will not participate in any meeting with the golf course, in effect.
Well, it's kind of redundant for us, Ernest, because we don't see that as I'll use the term legitimate place because it is benefiting a private enterprise for money that was meant for the community residents.
I just wanted to make your position clear. So again, it's back to us.
Have you withdrawn your
I
motion formally?
withdrew it. So he can always make it again.
Well, and I appreciate that further clarification. I believe you said that the first time, but I think that given all the conversation, it's important to hear this again. But the community association is in fact the holder of the money, the authorized holder of the money, and you do not want to give it to the golf club. You have made a motion to give it to the CDD for the betterment of the community.
Yes.
All right. I think you should reissue your motion.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the money as offered by the community association.
I second it, as long as it's unrestricted. Yes. I think it has to clearly state that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Any
No.
opposed?
No.
No.
Okay.
The motion carries 3 in favor, 2 against. Before we move on, does anybody need a break?
Of course.
Why not?
So it is 10:53.
I would echo those statements made by the chairman. I had a most enjoyable interview with the candidate, B, as I will call him from now on. And it's about customer service. He clearly understands customer service, be it at the pickleball court or the kitchen here in dining. I think he will be a great addition. He will be a leader, most of all, for our staff and can set the tone as we move forward. So welcome aboard. I look forward. Thank you.
I would echo those sentiments, and I would say that nice to meet you in person, since I only got to see you on the computer screen. But I think your demeanor is very important to what this community needs, and your vast amount of experience is going to be incredibly helpful. That for me, that's what really sets you apart, your demeanor and your experience to do what we need to do in this community with this River Club area. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, as well, I think the things that impressed me, Bernard, were when I asked you what how you saw a day here, and your answer was, the first one here, the last one out, and touring the property first, I think, is critical, because the amenities, the outside amenities are extremely critical. I think the second thing, speaking about the outside, is when I said to you on that, hot late morning, how about if we take a walk around the boardwalk? And you said, yep, let's go. And you picked up some trash along the way. So I think your eye for detail is something that that all of us will really welcome. So that's my view on it. Thanks.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
Ken?
I don't get to comment.
Go ahead, Ken. We're gonna let you.
So I spent about an hour and 15 minutes with Bernard and was equally impressed. I think the things that struck me was his understanding of the business and running a complete operation from P&L management to facilities management, and understanding operations. The second biggest thing that struck me was the fact that where he's been before, his management style and personality was such, and respect for people he worked with was such that he had great success in retaining staff for many, many years. And I think that says a lot about how he manages people as well as operations and facilities. So I certainly would be looking forward to working with him.
So board members, as I know most of you know, under our management agreement with Vesta, this board has the right to approve the general manager candidate. That is the only position that you have the right to approve. And it says that you, basically it says, provided that the general manager is subject to approval by the district and its sole and absolute discretion. So there's been a recommendation made to you today by Vesta. Sounds like each one of you individually has had an opportunity to meet with this candidate. So if you're so inclined, it would just be looking for a motion to approve the recommendation from Vesta to appoint Mr. Bernardo Santiago as the general manager.
I'll make that motion. Second. Any questions? Let's call it.
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
I didn't know you spoke Hawaiian.
He's a man of many talents.
Thank you. Supervisors, Ken has to log off at 10 a.m. I know we have staff reports pending. Do we want to
Let's move on.
go into the budget
Let's do the
discussions
budget.
since he'll be dropping off?
Yes, please.
Ken, is that okay with you? I know.
Yes, thank you.
At 12.
So we're going to jump into item number 6C, which is the presentation of the proposed budgets for fiscal year 2024, 2025. These are behind tab number 2 for your review. Ricardo Ocasio from Vesta did make changes to the projected annuals as requested, and they updated their data, so that is all inclusive in the detail that we provided. There were some changes to the reserve budgets. I summarized that in an email sent. So what we discussed at the workshop was to include the total projected reserve, which in turn reduced the assessment. The intent was actually the opposite. So Ken and I had a few discussions and we discussed the budgets. This is why we made the revisions to the reserve budget. So we have the full reserve contribution allocated, and then the interest amount is what was provided for in this study, not what we were originally projecting. So if you do collect additional interest, obviously, versus what was included as part of the study, then you'll show that as additional revenue in the financial statements. On the general fund budgets, we had discussed property insurance slightly going up, and that is because the appraised value of the pump station went up slightly, so it's not a huge increase. Other than that, I had no other changes on the general fund budgets.
I have made a question. How do we handle this anticipated revenue we're getting from this EA?
That's a question that we would have to ask the auditor. So we would add it as an additional revenue line item. And then whatever expenditures you're going to be making from that item, we would actually have to track it for the audit purposes. But I'm not sure. I would have to verify that.
We don't have to deal with it today,
No.
though. I mean, I know you hear me say this every year, board, but this is a not to exceed budget. So up until the public hearing, you have the ability to reduce things, the ability to move things around. We just can't go any higher in assessments than what we're proposing today. And it's my understanding your proposal is to actually lower assessments.
Mhm. So there's a lot of detail to these budgets. The assessment schedules are very difficult, and having to combine all this data is a process, but we've managed to combine everything. So you can see the percentages on the assessment schedules. The 3% increase in reserves is actually because of the change in the contribution reflecting with the new reserve amounts that were part of the revised studies. Other than that, the River Club budget is showing a total increase of $104,354. That's just your budget amount increase. But the percentage on your thank you.
General fund is down 5.3% when you exclude the one-time assessment.
Correct, and that total decrease in the general fund is $1,433,115.
So overall, even with the reserves up 3%, debt service is flat. We're going to see a meaningful reduction in everyone's assessment.
Yeah, no, I think we have put that.
So what we have discussed, because you have a reduction, we're not required to do the mailed notice, but the board did want to send some sort of a notification. Because I think the total increase is about, I think it's $40 for the year. We can prepare a notice to be mailed or a notice to be emailed. It really depends on how you want to send the notification. I would work on it with Andy because we want to make sure that we cover whatever legal terminology we need. It won't be as extensive of a notification as what we would normally send when we have an assessment increase. But this would provide the homeowners with a notification that although the assessments are going down, you should be aware that these items are going up technically.
Right, so board members, when the assessment increases from, a penny over what it was last year, we have all sorts of statutory requirements that come into play. That's the letter that nobody likes that I prepare with Belinda every year because it's very technical, because there's certain points we have to meet. We don't have to meet all those points this year when we are going down in our assessments. We also can have a much simpler ad, which will save you a lot of money there as well. That being said, I heard loud and clear that we still want to communicate with the community and the neighbors, and we'll work with Linda in that regard. But it will be much less complicated, much less statutory points that we need to meet.
And the simplest way to send it out, and the least expensive way to send it out is to email it, right?
Correct.
Rather
Correct.
than.
And we can also
you can
post
do-
it on the district's website, and then Jill can include it also as part of the newsletter.
And we could have some copies of it at the desk.
Correct.
And that is one of the requirements that will be obviated this year, whereas last year, we had no choice. Under chapter 197, Florida statutes, we had to mail this notice. We have some more options now.
So I would suggest we email it and with all those other things.
Yeah, so there's a lot of steps to follow. As of this point, once you approve the proposed budget, we then have to submit it to the county. Then the trim is due. The trim is due by July 8th. After that, we have to post, actually, we have to do two additional ads. So the ads have a timing phase that we have.
Ad published twice.
Correct. So we have all of that already on schedule, so we'll be working on all of this that we need to do in order to get you to the point where you hold your public hearing and adopt your budgets.
What is the timing of that communication?
Again, it's up to you guys, because whereas in the past, it had to be by statute, at least mailed 20 days ahead. We always said 30 to give us a little bit of leeway. We don't have that requirement. We have the advertising requirement, it needs to be published once a week for 2 consecutive weeks, with the first one not fewer than 15 days ahead of the hearing. We've already been working with Belinda's office to get that in order. So this community notice, I'll call it, that you plan to email, it sounds like, you have your own timing.
Correct.
So it's
So
up to
it
you.
doesn't need to be mailed, it will be emailed.
Email.
You could mail it if you want, but it's not statutorily required to be mailed, as we have had that
The
in the past.
expense to mail it.
It would be way too much.
Right.
I agree.
We don't need-
$1,400.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't need to spend it.
And typically, the amount of return mail is so excessive. So I don't know if you should mail it, unless you really want to.
No, I don't want to mail it.
Unless-
We get stacks and stacks and
Yeah.
stacks.
I was asking my question because I think it's also an opportunity. We talked last time about, and Ken so graciously agreed to draft some proposed communications to the community about what has happened over the last year and what has been accomplished in comparison with the strategic plan. I think that would be a perfect opportunity to include that in that mailing and also to mail it separately, email it separately. But I think putting it in there so that you can see, that the residents can see, not only did the assessment go down, the assessment is gone, the fees have gone down a bit, and these are the accomplishments that have been made in that same period. So
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so timing wise, it's really up to you. I mean, you want to get it out a little bit ahead of time so people have an opportunity to digest it, with regards to your public hearing.
Early July?
But it's up to you.
Early July, is that doable?
It's up to you.
What do you think?
Typically, our timing for the mailed notice would be 35 days, which gives us enough time to review it and get it out.
Right.
But it's entirely up to you.
Well, we're meeting on August 12th, right? So.
Public hearing.
That's your public
the
hearing
Public
day.
meeting is August 12th. So if we back this up to the end of June, early July, I think we're in good shape. Does that work for you, Andy?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'll work with, you guys are reading the meat of it. I'll just take a quick look through it when you're done.
Okay.
And work with Belinda.
Okay. We'll set that as a goal.
Okay.
So we need a motion on this,
Well, we would need a motion to approve resolution number 2024-05, approving the proposed budgets for fiscal year 2024, 2025, and setting a public hearing thereon, which is behind tab number 3. But
so,
for the purpose of the audience members who are here, this is not the final budget, this is the proposed budget, which the district is statutorily required to approve prior to June 15th.
And that
and for
public hearing-
those folks that are still here, if you go to the agenda that was published and click on that link, you'll get this a copy of this. But as has been stressed, this is a proposed budget. It cannot be higher than this amount, but it can be lower than this amount.
Correct. And then once the district board has approved the proposed budget, the package will be separated and included in the actual website as the approved proposed budget. So if you go onto the website, once we upload the approved proposed budget package, it'll be there on the agenda.
And one of the good things about this budget, if you get a chance to look at it, is the last several pages take individual items and it expands upon that. What does that mean? And it gives you a good overview of how your money is used.
So it'll be a motion to approve resolution 2024-05, setting the public hearing for August 12th at 9:30 at the Venetian River Club.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And can we just have a little bit of discussion then before voting on that? Because I do have, I'd like the other supervisor's opinion. On the River Club budget, I'm a bit concerned that the revenues are a bit high and the costs are a bit low. So since we're setting the trim number, those are a couple of things that I think could weigh on us, since this is our high. I mean, we've got, I'm looking at the budget here where the trailing 12 months, we're looking at, $770,000, but the budget for the restaurant revenues is $965,000. Do any of you have any comment on whether you think that number's okay, or?
Well, let me say one thing, Jill, is that high is just the assessment number. So if you feel, after you guys have had your discussions, that you need to change something with the River Club or something, as long as the assessment number doesn't go any higher.
I understand.
So it's
but
not an individual.
I understand,
grouping.
but if my concern, I guess, is gonna come at the far end of this, is it such an unrealistic figure that we're gonna end up putting
Having
ourselves
to
in the
increase the
position?
assessment.
Either that, or, we get to the end of that actual fiscal year that we're planning for now, and we've overspent and had to do some adjustments as we had to with the prior budget. That's my concern. If we're projecting high on the revenues and low on the
Certainly for your
costs,
discussion.
I don't want us to be coming up short sometime late in fiscal year 2024-25. So just interested in anybody's views on that.
I think we talked about that at length, because the concern is the outside events, right? Because that whole increase in the 965 is the outside events, and making sure that we have 12, correct? The number?
Yeah.
It's 12 outside events for the year. And I think we expressed concern about that at the beginning when we went through this. So I would look to Julie to say, are you comfortable with this number in the revenue side? And are you comfortable that the cost of sales is sufficient to cover those events?
I think that's what we're striving for, right? To increase the revenues and look at all the costs. I'm gonna look at it one more time in case we have to make any other recommendations, meaning we'll analyze all of it from the get-go, especially with what we're running at. That's what we're really concerned about. So.
Yeah.
Well,
Joe?
Yes, sir.
We talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
We did lower the revenue number a little bit.
Yep.
When the adjustments we made.
Right.
But it's an 8% increase over this year's budget. The trailing 12 months is distorted by the fact that there were no, we had the moratorium on outside events.
I understand.
There's also the inflation factor with menu pricing up a bit. There's a continuation of the success of the Tiki Hut, where the revenues were running more than twice as much as the pre-opening levels. So I don't think an 8% increase over last year's budget is excessive. In fact, it seems to me we ought to be able to do that or more. So I know we had a lot of conversation about it, but I think that's the challenge to Vesta, is to figure out a way to get more resident inclusion and participation. So I won't say it's without risk, but I think at the same time, it's a goal that we should be striving for.
I don't disagree. So maybe a question for Julie is, how's it going with booking outside events? Have we had interest so far?
It has increased, but a good, well, and my thing was, a good news effort, for example, is going to a la carte brunch, even though you might think the check average is a little less than the $16.95, which it is, but then there's no waste. So for example, the last 2 weeks, we had 80 and then we had 60 this past Sunday, but we sold the food and not had any waste with it. So one of that, like as an option during this slow time, where we're not gonna get 120 people, has definitely been, improvement. So we've got the revenue, but we're also we're having a better, option with the cost because it's not costing
But
us.
what about outside events? Have we
Outside
had
events,
interest in booking?
we're building on it, but again, outside events, I think I said it a couple of meetings back, that it's a continual build. So for example,
That's
we
my
just gave
concern.
someone you have to be doing them for people to know, but we just got an event for December from South Coast Orthopedics, a local company that, and we got an event for December. So our goal is to pick up these events. When we went over it with Ken, even if we can increase the revenue 6% with those outside events, then we're not solely relying on only the residential community to increase the revenue by the whole 8%. So I absolutely believe with the outside events that we will be able to reach this goal.
And I think that this is where the reporting will ultimately be really important.
Absolutely.
Because if we're gonna run into a traffic jam, we're gonna need to know early on and take some action, so we don't end up with it.
But then we'll
problem.
also be forecasting. So to forecast,
Yes.
what are we going, in October, we'll say, hey, this is what December looks like right now, January, February. So, yeah.
Okay, if you're
Thank you.
comfortable, I'm comfortable.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded. Call it.
All those in favor, please state aye.
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 Thank you. So we're gonna move into staff reports. We do have landscaping inspection services report behind tab number 1. John, good morning.
Hey, John.
Steal your microphone. Of course. Thank you. I'll make this relatively quick and brief, but just go over our most recent report you guys have on your agenda. Most of this report is pretty much due to lack of rain or irrigation. To highlight a few of the main issues with that is Siltonella between Laurel Road and the gate. And I'm not sure, there is a photo number 3.
Right.
That was really bad comparative to everything else. I did find out that there was a faulty timer and there has been a proposal put in for that. So hopefully we'll see that look better here relatively soon. Number 20, and I believe this was brought up in public comments, but just noting there's probably approximately 20 to 25 of the new shrubs that were put in on the berms in front of the Awabuki that are either in distress or have died. So it's really difficult being up on a hill to keep moisture up there, but just wanted to point that out. Number 12, I don't know if there's a photo with that, but just noting there's a dead Washingtonian on Laurel Road, fairly close to where we had 2 removed not too long ago. I don't see any formations of conchs or fungus on it, so we might have to delve deeper or maybe take some soil samples there to make sure nothing else is going to die close to those areas. Number 16, just showing a large grasshopper on a crinolily. Just that time of year where some of these things are coming out, so we want to make sure we get on top of that and treat that. 28, there is a dead tree. I do not believe there's much irrigation over in this area, which is on the Palmero Monument. So I would suggest that that one be removed and you have enough right there in that area where you would just sod that and not necessarily need another tree in that area. 57, that's a photo of the lawn behind the River Club. And you can see a mass improvement from where that picture is compared to what it is now. So I'm not sure if there's an irrigation repair there or we're getting rain, but it looks a lot better now. And then the last thing is 58, just the Siltadella Macero intersection where a tree was removed. There still is a dip there or a hole. We want to at least get that filled in until we figure out what we want to do with that area.
Okay, so that's been brought up before.
Yes.
And can you get to fill that before somebody trips? Thank you.
One thing from me, I guess I'll look at both of you. I think I noticed, I forget what it's called, it's not Ganoderma, it's something else. It's when, the foxtail palms start, their fronds just start to look flat. Like they're all about to fall off at once, meaning there's some kind of infestation. It's a palm as you have your back to the parking lot. It's not the pygmy date, it's one of the other, I think it's a foxtail. That looks like it's got that look like it's about to drop all its fronds. So can we just have a look? Because I know that's really infectious. So have a peek if you could. Thanks.
Chris, Bill, I had a comment on the Medici berm on the oleander. It seems like we always have an issue on that Medici berm. What are you guys doing to take care of the oleander issue there? And the line of sight issues we need to address as well. We cannot have any signage blocked. So unless it's been pending, if you guys could put that on your radar for this week to address, I'd appreciate that.
And the line of sight issues in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Good Chapel's blocking the sign.
They're growing really well.
They are. They're growing great.
Yeah, we're gonna dip them soon, but as far, I think the sign is very short, the one that is being blocked, so we'll talk to Keith and see if maybe it can just be.
Yeah, you just move
You're
the
not
sign.
You're not gonna trim the lower, are you?
No, that.
We'll just move the sign.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
move the
think the
sign.
best thing to course of action is just get the sign.
Get a tall sign. Problem solved. Any other questions for John?
No.
Thank you very
guys.
much, John.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Rick, do you have anything to report?
I do. Yes, I do. A couple things. The sidewalk repairs last month, I guess, when we met last, the sidewalk flume up at 286 Montaluna, that has been completed, so that should be good there. And over the weekend, I got notification about the sidewalk right behind us here. Well, I want you to know I did spray paint it before the meeting, and I did talk to the vendor. He should be here tomorrow to make repairs, weather permitting. So I know it's supposed to rain most of the week, but we're painted up, so that should be good there.
Thanks for getting on that so quickly. Appreciate that.
Signage, last meeting, somebody was questioning the sign on Siltadella coming in to
Oh, yeah.
directional them to the main. I thought we had that sign out there. I went out there to verify it, and that sign is there.
Okay.
So if they pull up, it says the entrance is a half a mile up the road. Pickleball. LNP has completed all of their items with the exception of the irrigation that's right up against the edge. And I want them to hold off on that till the brick pavers are relocated, just because there's too much possibility of that getting damaged again. So now Miles has been working with the racket committee and with BNC. And the bricks that they chose matches the bricks out here. And there's a 10 to 12 week delivery time on that. So just kind of mentioning that, what LMPE did when they moved the river rock where we're gonna put some, they've kind of flagged it all.
Okay.
So that's what we got there. Then the last item I had was the noise.
Yes.
There'd been some comments about the effectiveness of a fountain.
Right.
And I went on the internet, and there's a whole bunch of the documents, and I printed out 2 of them. There's a lot of info that really talks about how effective fountains are. So I wanted to share that because I've been told multiple times, I kind of witnessed it, but there is a lot of documents out there that talk about how successful that is. The only thing that I didn't know was the cost of electrical. We're still working on that, but I think that's the last thing.
I've got an electrician coming next week. And the lights, it's gonna be put up out there. We're having, some drop boxes put into them so that the electricity can be ran.
You're talking about to the parking lots?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll get, maybe by the next meeting, we'll have an estimate on what the fountain would cost for the
fountain,
aerator.
we know is just getting the power.
Electric to it, but we'll have a full package by next time, you think?
Yeah, and I'm still very encouraged that the 2 rows of hedges, they're growing, they're filling in, so that's absolutely going to help also.
Okay.
Dude, what is the cost of the fountain? You said you already know that piece.
Yes, do you remember what those were?
With Solitude, I think it was like 17,000. And with the other company, it wasn't, I think it was more like 9,000.
Plus electrical, okay.
And those were quoted with the solar.
Solar power.
Yeah, but I don't think we really want to go with solar.
Because
I can comment on that because we just installed an aerator somewhere else where the 3 of us actually are at the same location and the panels are huge. So the complaint, although the neighbors wanted the aeration system because of the issues with the lake as it related to midge flies and algae blooms, these solar panels were fairly large and they were an eyesore. So there was a lot of back and forth at this one particular location because of the panels. We managed to move them and then somehow find a different location, but that wasn't at an additional cost. You can explore solar, but I will caution you about the appearance of the panels because you will need to take that into consideration because the next complaint won't be about the pickleball noise anymore. It'll be about the look of those large solar panels on the bank.
How large is large?
Large.
like a roof, like a roof.
Yeah.
It's like a
They have to
roof.
bring them in to.
And it's not just one panel, it's a couple of panels.
You know, I never thought of that.
So I'm not sure on we would have to see the specifications that they provide from the fountain company on what the sizes would be of the solar panels. If you do make that decision, I would just caution you to notify the homeowners that live on that lake of what is going to be done so that you don't have a group coming to the meeting after the fact complaining about the overall appearance of the panels. Because you can't really block the panels once you put them in.
Right.
because that will prevent,
Then they're not panels.
they're not planters anymore, correct?
So we can't
Some
put
want
pitch apple in front of
landscaping, you can't put a pitch apple, around it, it just won't work.
So could I please ask Keith that when you get the proposals, that we get one for the solar pump? Oh, sorry, I'm looking at you, Rick. For the solar pump, but then also for an electric pump, then with the cost of the electric traditional, so that we can actually evaluate both, be helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's all I had.
Any other questions for Rick? Thank you, sir.
Since Rick is here, he's already covered the fountain issues or anything else regarding pickleball, so we don't have to recover items that he may have to answer, or do you want us to discuss it?
I mean, I had put it on the agenda, because really for a couple of reasons. I'm just trying to find my notes so I don't miss what I wanted to say about it. I had wanted to put it on the agenda because I had a very excellent conversation with a pickleball ambassador. I wanted you all to know that since I'm under sunshine, I can't tell you. This was a few weeks ago. And one of the points of conversation was he really urged me, before we make decisions on anything to do with noise mitigation, that we do a little bit more investigation on other communities in the area. About 50% of the home communities, he tells me, have pickleball courts. And so there are a lot of communities out there with pickleball courts, and many of them are dealing with things in different ways. And there are not a lot of communities that have the acoustic panels the acoustic fence panels that we have. So I came away very encouraged by what he said. So maybe I would just add, in addition to looking at fountains, could we, I don't know whether this is an RSAC thing or what this is, could we do some additional investigation of actual real life situations rather than continuing to hope that something's going to work and throw money at the wall? Do you think we could ask for some field trips by folks on the RSAC to do some investigation through the USA Pickleball Association? There's a Sarasota ambassador to that organization who I think may be able to be helpful in pointing us to some situations that may be similar to ours.
Specifically to address sound.
Noise.
Sound.
Noise.
Oh, sound.
Yes.
Noise.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no problems with that, but it wouldn't be a committee from the racket sports. It would probably have to be the ambassadors more so.
Okay.
Okay,
What do you
I have
think?
no problems recommending that.
Okay.
I thought the effort, well, the statement was made that there was going to be some type of restrictions on usage of time usage of the courts.
Is that what you thought I was going to propose?
Well, that's.
No. My purpose was twofold. A, because I wanted to let you all know my conversation
Haven't heard that.
with
You all. Go ahead.
the pickleball ambassador. But secondly, I think when something that's important like this is going to be discussed, it's helpful for people who don't follow the CDD on a regular basis that we actually have an agenda item there, so people on both sides can come and express their opinions. So I don't need to, it's getting late. I don't need to beat that into the ground. I just wanted to share those thoughts with you.
All right, so our next meeting, our problem is our next meeting is in September.
Oh, okay. So, but not the
Okay.
pickleball ambassadors, so maybe.
The pickleball ambassadors basically go on, most of them.
Well, you could, I mean, you could certainly
Yeah, we'll get.
get Bill Graham, who is
Yeah,
kind
he's
of vocal
been-
about this.
Yes.
And some other folks, two or three of them can.
We have some here today.
Yeah, I had an excellent
Yeah.
chat with, I had an excellent email exchange with
Pickleball people?
with Bill as well. Because I'll be honest with you, I think, although the noise thing can be contentious, I think if we do it right, it's actually an opportunity to say, we did it differently here and we found a way to fix it to make everybody happy. So that's really, I guess, as
So we're
much as
gonna
I
do a little
can.
bit of investigation.
That'd be awesome.
Yes.
Okay, and in the meantime, we're gonna get.
That's all I'm up to.
We'll get some
Nothing
numbers.
else.
Fine.
Thank you.
And
We'll
I
get
have
some
very high
emails out
hopes
today.
for the pond, by the way. I think the fountain in the pond will have a big effect, because I have a fountain in my backyard, and when there's a party across the pond from my lanai, that is very loud, if I turn my fountain on, I hear nothing. So I think the impact of disruption of the water and the noise, I appreciate articles, I think it could have a really good effect.
Also, it solves a couple of other issues as just discussed, keeps the water moving,
Right.
could deal with the flies a little bit, help with the fish kills.
Mhm.
There's,
It's great.
there's a couple of positives that come from it.
Well, interesting, we were at the Disney properties this past weekend, and almost all of them have fountains, okay? Even though they march around and you can't hear anything. So it's a good point.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay, so we covered B as well then.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
it
you,
works
Jill.
for me. All right.
Andy, do you have anything to report?
Just a couple of items. One is, I'm not sure if I told the board about this new piece of legislation that was signed into law at the end of April. It's just only effect it has on Venetian is that we need to now formally come up with goals and objectives, and then they're codified into an annual report that's put on our website. So Rosetta, I'm sure we'll be working on that. Just wanted to relay that information to the board. And then the second issue is, I know at your last meeting, question came up about, quote, political events at the River Club. I sent the board a memo with regards to our findings, taking a look back at some of the previous years and what had been expressed. I'm glad to answer any questions on that.
I thought the response was, it answered questions for me. I thought it was well done. So I know it was your associate who did it.
Yes, Amy Farrington, by the way, is a new attorney in our office. I think everybody got an email in that regard. We're excited to have her.
You put her to work right away.
She comes from the supervisor of elections type of background, and so she was excited to work on a politically event issue.
Do we need to do anything with this now, or?
No, I don't believe you do, but like I said, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to ask any questions if you had them. And any other questions on any other topics. Otherwise, that's all I have.
Any questions?
You know me, I always.
Just still thinking about it.
No.
Okay.
Are we good? Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Floyd.
Julie, do you have anything to report?
Okay.
Very good to go.
I did just want to clarify one.
Thank you.
1 second, Julie, I'm sorry. Just wanted to clarify one thing. In the memo, talked about a motion from 2017. The minutes were from 2017, so there's no confusion, but it references a motion from back in 2016. Just a point of clarification.
Okay, in the second paragraph.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Julie.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for earlier. Great. And I will work on diligently getting Bernard through the VESTA system, which is the background check and the drug test and then the other parts of it. So I will keep you guys posted. Just an update on what's going on. So we're in the throes of the Jonas implementation, and thank you, Ken, for supporting that. We determined we don't have to change like member numbers and go through that exercise, so that's good news. We've cleaned up the majority of it, but we've got the majority of the background for the members and the residents set up, and we'll be working on the F&B portion in the next couple weeks, and then we'll go into full implementation on July 1st. So just keeping you posted on that. We are going to be creating, after the fact and during, we're taking some great notes and documentations, but to have an SOP binder. So for the future, we can have it very specific. So whoever is doing these different positions will have something to refer to. And my recommendation is we will give the board a copy and people don't change that, because that's what has been then very challenging when you're sourcing reports and trying to do analysis of different operations. including from the member side, tennis, aquatics, fitness, the reservation. So we just want to make sure you know that. On the event side, we're working to do a social calendar until May of 2025. This will help us have the plan, be able to give the plan starting in October, so everyone knows what's coming up, because we have had some people comment that it's very hard for them to make their social plans if things pop up. So we want to make sure that they know the majority of the really big things, and we might pop up some little things. We are trying to do different ideas for revenue. So Chef came up with a burger special. The last couple of weeks, it's been successful on Wednesdays. So we'll continue some different things like that just to increase revenue. Even if it's at a small amount, just substantially, it'll go up as we continue to do it. So great. And then Miles has some things that he's going to go over on a few of the lighting stuff. Is there anything you guys have for me?
You're going to include Bernardo in the Jonas training,
The what training?
the Jonas training? Are you going to include Bernardo? You said he's going to be a while before he's here, but.
Yes, so what had happened was, we as a group decided that we needed to move forward, because at that time, we could not wait. But I've discussed it with Jonas at length, how does it work? And they do this all the time, so I'm very confident, and I've already let him know that, hey, one of the first things when you're on board is, I want you to do that, because then that's clear. So whatever, by the time he really gets on board, we will have been done with the training part, but everything is recorded. So the trainings are recorded. They have a lot of online help, and then we will have special training kind of just for him. But again, it's a thing that they experience all the time. So Jonas has, definitely shown me what the different things can be. So I feel very good about that. He'll be up to speed.
He had said that he felt he could be here by the first week or second week in July at the latest. Does that fit into Vesta's schedule in terms of background checking and everything else?
Okay, I don't think he'll be here by the first week of July for sure. No, sir, because the stuff on our part, first of all, we have to do an offer letter. So I've been through the last two. It was much different, right? The last two, we didn't have someone that had a job, had to give, in his position, he has to give approximately 3 weeks notice to 4 weeks. It's a little more complicated. This gentleman does not work for Vesta at the moment.
No.
In the past, we did it a little differently. So this part of it probably is what is a little unfortunate, that'll take a little longer, but I absolutely think, I've been talking to this gentleman since the end of March.
Okay.
So I feel really, just so convinced that this is going to be really successful. But I do not think, I'll just have to be honest with you, I do not think it's going to be the first week of July or even the second week.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Just a super quick one for you, Julie. On Jonas, we say implementation starts July 1, I think, right?
The July 1 is go live date.
Right,
Uh-huh.
so, well, what does that mean? Like, if I'm the average resident who spends all my day golfing and playing pickleball, what does that mean? Am I getting a new card that day? Am I, what's happening? on July
No,
1?
really, from the membership perspective,
Yeah.
it's not going to really mean a lot, because we're able to use the same numbers and then the same cards as well. So if we would have had to change the member numbers. Remember a while back, many meetings back, we talked about we might have to go through each and every person to make sure, remember we had the conversation about residency and what does that look like? We, for Jonas, do not have to do that. Now,
So it's gonna be fairly transparent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's my
now,
question.
for the future, if something is determined, hey, we want to do an analysis of the residents, if we want to do something like that for the future, that's a different topic.
And so that means if somebody who left here a year ago and didn't turn in the River Club card, that River Club card won't work anymore, whereas it might work today.
Well, that was part of the cleanup, so
Okay.
we got through Keith, we got a
Okay.
list of who hasn't used their card for a year. and then we turn them off. We really haven't had anyone come back and say, well, I just weren't around for a year. That hasn't happened yet. But we'll do it on a case-by-case basis, because you know what it is you have to kind of bite the bullet, rip off the Band-Aid, and just do it. And then, you know, as long as there was some thought process, and Ken, thanks, you're a big part of that, in what the thought process is, but we just needed to move forward. What looks different for us is, you know, I don't wanna tell you I know exactly, but the billing statement might be a cleaner thing where it would say like Tiki Bar, La Sala, Bistro, when you're looking at maybe a charge on your bill. The current system was a little weird with that it had some verbiage that wasn't like user friendly if you were trying to analyze your bill. We're gonna be putting out an email, so now when we're really getting close, we're gonna put out an email to the residents just to say, hey, the new system will be going in place, you know, and we just want people to be aware. I don't foresee at the moment any real challenges. You know, the biggest part for us too is the food and beverage part, because the ringing up and that type of thing. But right now, I think we're gonna be good moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other question? Ken?
I think he's gone.
Okay.
He's still with us.
Is it?
I'm here.
Well, that's good to know.
He usually has a lot.
I do have a pretty hard stop coming up, so can I make a few comments
Sure.
Yes, sir.
that are out of order? Miles is gonna be proposing a couple of things with landscape lighting and parking lot lighting. Just so you're aware, I do support both of those. The landscape lighting is in the reserve for 2024 at, he's actually come in with a quote that's lower than what we have in the reserve. The parking lot lighting was not in until fiscal 26, at a somewhat lower amount, but if they want to pull that forward, the funds are there, and I don't see any problem with doing that. So that's a couple of things. Then a couple of things that are coming up, I don't know if you'll get to it or not, on the gate access system. If you're planning to do something with that today, I sent out a new summary. Rich had asked at the last meeting that I separate the gate access from the traffic control portions, which I've done. Just be aware, if you make a decision on gate access only, it's going to restrict you on what you can do with traffic control, because each of those are, each company has their own. One's Traffic Logic, the other is Traffic Hawk. So just be aware that if you go with a gate access system and you later want to do traffic control, you've got to basically use their solution. Personally, I would go with option 2 on that TechWave software. It's less expensive in the long run, and Traffic Logic will integrate with it. And in any case, we're going to be eliminating the Southwest software, so we'll save $2,700 a year, which is not reflected in this on that. And if you get to talk about Solitude, I don't know if Keith had a chance, but the total contract renewal is for a little over $106,000. And I strongly suggest, if he hasn't already, that we haven't gone out for bid on that for a number of years. And before we renew that, we may want to do that. Other than that, that's all I got.
So Ken, I have a question for you. On the gate access and traffic control, if we go with option 2, are the one-time costs from reserves or are they operating? The 49,000.
They are the one-time cost would be capital.
They are capital. Okay.
Yes.
So then the annual fee of 17,000 is reduced by 2,700.
I'm sorry, just a clarification on the ISN, the RFID tags would not be capital, those would be operating expense. The
Okay,
software would be, capital.
so everything under option 2 would be capital.
Yes, just because it's the software, cameras and passes.
Right.
The passes are included, so there's no additional cost there.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Miles.
Okay. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Miles. I'll try to make this pretty quick. Before I dive in here, our facilities committee has already, if you look at the cover letter here, I have sidewalk and tiki bar lighting. The facilities committee already voted that Vesta can go ahead with the tiki bar lighting. It's within our authorization amount to do so, but I'm just putting it as one project because it's more than likely going to be the same company and they'll probably be here on the same day. So just in case the funds get pulled from the same spot, I'm just going to present it all at once. Okay. There have been ongoing complaints about not having sufficient sidewalk lighting in the front of the River Club leading to the parking lots. We installed solar lights as a quick fix, but we're moving towards a permanent solution. We also know there's not enough light at the tiki bar seating area. We have residents using their cell phones to read the menu. We'd also like to light up this area to provide a better experience for the guests. I met with 2 vendors, Golf Moon and Pleasant Lightscapes, to provide a proposal for new sidewalk lighting in the front of the River Club and new lights for the tiki bar seating area. I met with Rich Goodman from the Facilities Committee to review the proposals. We also spoke with both vendors to review and have decided Pleasant Lightscapes who we would like to use. They provide a better customer service, lower prices, more information, spec sheets for the lights, and a better solution for the tiki bar seating area. The Facilities Committee agreed on this decision. We are looking to add 32 lights to the front sidewalks facing each building, or facing the building. There will be 9 lights on the left side and 23 lights on the right side. Each light is equally spaced at 8 to 10 feet. 1 transformer will be added to each side. We're also looking to add 6 lights to the tiki bar seating area. 3 lights will be mounted to the tiki bar gutter on the front side. The lights are mounted with a gutter mount. They will be screwed into the top of the gutter / fascia. Also, 3 lights will be mounted to the closest palm tree. Each light will have the ability to change the lumen output and direction that it shines. There's a lifetime warranty on the labor, stainless steel transformers, and brass light fixtures, a 10-year warranty for the light bulbs. There's no warranty for damage to the fixtures or transformers by landscapers or residents. No warranty for damage by acts of God, such as power surge, lightning strike, or hurricane / storm. So if you guys look at the second page on that after the cover letter, this is the proposal for the front sidewalk lighting. So you can see there, you got 23 lights on the right, 9 on the left. So you're looking at a total cost of $9,855. If you look at the third page, you can see in blue, I highlighted where those lights are going to be going. So it goes around the circle to each parking lot and then down the handicap parking on the front right side of the River Club. The third and fourth page shows the light specs, shows what the fixtures look like, and any other information that there is for those lights.
How long would this installation be?
That can be done, I would say 2 days, and they can, if you guys approve today, it can be done by the end of the week. If we continue to go forward, it comes to the tiki bar lighting. So if you look halfway on that estimate where it says River Club Tiki Bar, that total is going to be $2,340, which is under our authorization. So if you guys don't approve the landscape lighting out front, we probably will still go ahead and do the tiki bar lighting.
All right, so the landscape lighting is $9,855, and the rest of it, the other $9,300, is around the pool area as well as the tiki bar, correct?
Yes, but we wouldn't be spending the $9,300. If you look on that second quote there, just the bottom half where it says River Club Tiki Bar. Yep, exactly.
So just $2,340.
So we wouldn't have to deal with that one.
Correct.
today, just the 9855, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and when you say it is, that you don't, it's within your limit, do you mean the River Club management limit?
Correct.
Thank you. Just checking, make sure I understand these limits.
It's,
Which still needs,
Maybe-
Rich is.
maybe clarify.
Rich still needs to do
Yeah,
it.
Rich still needs to approve it.
Okay.
I just be clear, because I
all right.
thought we had
Well,
other
Ken,
limits.
Ken has already said he supports this. We have the money for it in reserve, so, do you want to put the two together or, separately?
I would just put them together. I'm assuming the vendor, it's the same vendor, and they'll probably be doing this project on the same day, so I would just put it together.
So then I'll make a motion, that we accept the estimate from Pleasant Lightscapes, for $9,855 for the lighting, at the River Club and the Tiki Bar, in front of the River
Well,
Club.
it's
and the
another
Tiki Bar.
23.
So it's a total of 12,195.
12,195.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
12,195 for
Yeah.
That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Oh,
Any discussion?
sure.
Hold on one minute. This is kind of on the agenda, but also off agenda. I just didn't know if there's any, want to take an opportunity to see if there's any comments from the public before we take the final vote.
Because this wasn't in the
Right.
agenda.
Oh,
Yes.
Sounds like we're good. Okay.
Sounds good.
sounds okay. Then we'll close public comment.
What, wait,
What?
you might want to open.
Oh, I thought we had open.
I just have one question. Does this solve the problem of the lighting for the sidewalk?
Should.
Yes.
And they were talking along the parking lot. I'm sorry, I didn't see a picture, so I just want to make sure, because that has come up so many times.
That's the idea.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we can close public comment. We have a motion that's been seconded,
What was the second, I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Sure.
and we have a total of
195.
12,195. Can we call
All those in favor, please state aye.
it? Aye.
I do have one question, and I'm fine with it being approved, but there's a transformer quote in the back. Is that, what is that?
That is the second company. I just wanted to show that to
Okay,
you.
thank you.
And that's,
Thank you.
that was only for the front lighting.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, moving on, I have the parking lot light quotes. I met with 3 vendors, Synergy Electric, Owens Electric, and Venice Electric. Originally, I met with Synergy and Owens. We got 2 quotes from them to replace all of the parking lot light poles as they are. But then we went back with the facilities committee and analyzed the parking lot lights and decided that we should remove some of the poles that are there now and actually add some into some new locations. The reason for the removal is some of them are completely engulfed in trees. And so we talked to the engineer and everybody with the CDD. If we remove those trees, they have to be replaced with a like tree. So we'll have the issue later on. So we're looking to just change the locations of a few and add a few light poles. Venice Electric is the one company that denied, they did not give us a proposal. They said it was out of their wheelhouse. So I only have 2 proposals. I presented these to the facilities committee and we all agreed that we would like to use Synergy. Synergy Electric was good. They did all of the tennis court lights on all 6 courts. They provided the best price. All their information is very good. All their on-site visits and everything was very nice and good customer service. So I'm presenting this quote here. It's going to be
46,553?
yeah. So it's going to be for 11 poles. We currently have 8 out there, so we're going to remove 3. So that brings us down to 5, but we're adding 6 additional ones. So it'll be up to 11 poles. If you go to the 4th page, I can show you the map of where these are going to go. Yep. So you can see on there, there's a few that says remove. There's 4 of them that we're gonna, I'm sorry, 3 that we're gonna remove. And all of the white circles and the 1 blue circle are gonna be the new light pole locations.
I think maybe, Miles, you just want to add that when facilities, together with Miles, who did a tremendous amount of work, along with some facility committee members looking this up, we should have a really good package of lighting, I think, out in front of the club between what's to be done here and then the entry as well as the parking lot together is going to really make it safe.
Do we know how this lighting will affect some of the neighbors, or will there be?
Well, the first option is we get to choose the color temperature of the lights. So that's gonna be the first thing. They do offer a hood that you can put on the fixtures if we decide to do that, maybe like the lake facing ones. And also a timer inside the River Club for whichever time we choose to have them illuminated.
Well, it wouldn't be something that would be on all night.
Correct.
Right, so it would be on during event time, right?
Yeah.
You're right, someone's gonna
They're
have
gonna
to.
complain still.
But,
Well,
I think the lighting out there is needed. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm up
absolutely.
here, I'm up here quite a bit.
It's
and
desperately needed.
It's definitely needed in the area, and we can move it up from, it was the budget year for 25, 26?
26.
But Ken assured us that there's,
Yes.
we can move it up.
Yes, and the other reason too is if we're gonna do the paving in the parking lot, which we all know needs to be done, we need to do the light poles before we do the paving. So sequencing is critical here.
This makes sense because you kind of have 3 in every row, except for the extra
That's
one
great.
down by the
Great job.
parking lot.
Yeah.
So that does kind of make sense, but it is an extra light right by the pond,
Okay.
so.
Now, we have one pole that's been laying down since we, I think it's
It's gone. It's
pickleball
gone.
time, right?
It's gone now, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the quote from Synergy.
That would be subject to preparation and agreement by
Yes.
district council.
So Andy will prepare a contract?
I will.
Okay.
And did you second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Or I second it. You're gonna see who got first on the recorder.
Sure.
We'll give it to Cheryl. And for board members, this is another off-agenda item, so just we'll take some public comment if there are any.
Why not?
We could open for public comment on that.
We're now open for public comment for this item only. Any public comments?
I thought it would be illuminating.
Do we have a price for what it would cost to put a shield on anything that might be an issue over at the pond?
I don't have any cost at this time for a shield, no. But I mean,
Can be added?
Yeah.
If it's an issue?
oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I think too, if you think about like the lights, you know, they're big, very big lights on Jacaranda, but they're definitely the more focused lights as
Yeah.
opposed to Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see the lights from Shea.
Can you tell where I'm from?
Any other public comment?
She's cool.
Okay, we can close public comment, and we have a motion, it's been seconded. Can we call it?
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
I'll prepare that contract, thank you.
Is now the time when we would decide the color temperature? Because we could go bright white, we could go, which would be 5K. 4K is the most standard right now for parking lot lights, and then 3K would be a warmer glow.
Are they adjustable?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Not
Oh,
from
no, I
us.
think isn't there a
Remote?
switch in the device?
I will verify, but I believe no.
In a parking.
Tim knows that, Tim.
Okay. Oh, okay. Tim,
They're adjustable, but the adjustment is at the light itself.
I see.
Up in
Okay.
here. So that would mean a revisit by the contractor to change the color.
Okay.
Okay, no remotes.
But Tim, so the standard is 4,000,
It is 4,000.
okay.
Like,
They have a
it's
nice
gonna be
look.
Very bright white, and I don't think you want
No.
that. But
Okay.
What about warm glow? Warm glow sounds nice to me.
That sounds good to me too.
You know, warm glow, which would look more like a, high pressure sodium light, which is like a yellowish color.
Almost brown,
Maybe
yeah.
a little too dim for you.
Yeah, and we need clarity, so I think 4,000.
How about
4,000, sounds good.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. Done?
Great job.
Thank you, Miles.
You're welcome. Appreciate you guys.
Can I just mention quickly at this point, since Miles is here, that I think you all supervisors received a memo from Tim on the locker rooms. And, you know, there's no expenditure requested, but if you had a chance to read it, the facilities committee is requesting that it would like to do some additional work on the locker rooms and get some pricing for the board. Potentially, Ken's not on anymore, but Cheryl, you're expert on this, potentially bringing that forward in the reserve study.
Let's get some pricing.
Yeah, if everybody's okay with that, we'd like to do that.
Let's
Pricing
get,
is important.
let's get some
Great, okay.
pricing and we'll deal with it from there.
Okay, so we have the, go ahead then to do the pricing, Tim.
Okay.
So I need.
Perfect.
Julie, did you have anything else? Okay. Moving forward, Keith, do you have anything to report?
No.
Any questions for Keith?
I have a question for Keith, with regard to the work that we've done to remove pepper trees and clean up the preserve areas.
Mhm.
There have been, I've gotten an equal number of positive and negative comments. But on the negative comments, the issue is some stuff has been knocked over but not cleaned up. Can we address that? Have you seen those?
A lot of that, where they've gone and just, it's a belt and just grinds it all down to the ground and makes mulch out of it. I'll go back out and take a look at the wetlands where they've been. And we still have to say it's a wetland, right? So that's gonna fill up with water, you know, it's gonna, some of that's gonna grow back, all right? But it's just what we're doing and trying to do is you got the berm and then you got your wetland, right? A lot of that wetland stuff was growing into the berm and pushing lawnmowers further out. Okay, so we've gone in and just cleaned a lot of that up. All right, and taking it all back, so we've gained the berm now, and the mowers can get back in there and do, you know, the mowing of the banks. But I'll go back out and take a look. He's gonna come back out and we're gonna go around again. Guy's name is Adam. And when they're just about done, he has another couple wetlands that he hasn't done. The guy was doing it, said it wasn't on his chart, and it was, because there's two major ones that need to be done, so we'll be taking another look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, on that, Keith, what I think one thing that might help, although I think we've done a fair amount of the work, is can we notify the homeowners when somebody's gonna be going back there? Because I think what I've gotten from people is they were all of a sudden, you know, two brush hogs appear in the back. Is there a way we can notify people?
Well, it was in the newsletter. You know, your newsletter, our newsletter.
Yeah, but.
Clearly stated.
But there wasn't a list of.
No.
Well, and you, I think.
And I didn't know exactly where they were gonna start or what they were gonna get. They, you know, we showed them all of that.
Right.
In and out, done. You know, I had, you know, lady get in front of the mower and say, "You're not doing this."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, they are.
Well, I know I had a call from somebody saying.
Come on. Yeah. But, okay.
Because we didn't say which ones were being done, so I think you might have taken the same call that I did, Rich, but,
I called her back.
yeah, me too.
She understood.
Me too, yep, absolutely. Question, I think my check that I wrote in January for a new RFID.
I gotta get those in.
So, but can we, I think you mentioned to me at the time that in order to do mobile, or, you know, like remote deposit, you would need a board action in order to do that, because.
Well, no, that's a Rosetta thing, and
okay.
I'll get with
Yeah.
Belinda and I'll get a
Yeah,
reply
because it's like
for
5
you.
months.
Yeah, I'll get a reply for you, and
Yeah.
we'll, it would make things easier without, you know, just doing a swipe or doing something like that. to do that. So,
Yeah, or whatever, just a, remote deposit for you guys, I think would just help things out a little
I'm
bit.
sorry, I didn't understand you.
So when I wrote a check
I
for
have
my
deposited
RFID
those.
tag in January, it has not been deposited since January, so it's been fouling up my checking account since then.
Okay.
So we need to get that
Why
done.
are you guys holding on?
I get, 3 or 4 months and then I send them in, and so I'm just behind.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. And then the last thing is, I wanted to be sure, I had seen in the facilities committee, a list of open items that has been put together, and I think some of them might have been yours, so I wanted to be sure you've seen that.
With LNP out by the tennis courts.
Yeah, there's a
Yes.
bunch of things.
LNP
Okay,
has
you
been
have that.
notified, and they're
Okay,
told me that they'll be getting on that last week and this week,
okay,
and I gave them the numbers that were specifically for them.
okay, appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. We do have a regularly scheduled meeting for June 24th, 2024. We also have a workshop scheduled as well. Does the board want to hold the June 24th meeting, or do you want to cancel that meeting?
I am very likely going to be in court that day and possibly for a few more days during that week. So,
So we don't have a quorum.
I won't be here, I'll be.
She won't be here. so-
Okay, so we won't have a quorum in person, so we're gonna have to cancel the June 24th. Then our next regularly scheduled meeting would be scheduled for July 8th. So you do have both the workshop and the meeting advertised. So if you choose not to have a regular meeting, but you wanna hold a workshop, you can do that as well.
Will we have forum?
July 8th?
I'll be here on the 8th.
Me too.
It's the day before my birthday, if anybody cares.
Me too.
I'll be north.
My
Ernest,
daughter's
will you
is
be here?
the, seventh.
Yours is the 7th?
My daughter.
Oh, okay.
Is that a yes?
I
No pressure.
I have to check with my,
Your secretary.
my boss.
Your boss.
I believe I will be here.
Why don't we set it for the 8th, and then we always respond to Michelle as for availability, but let's say it's going to be the 8th.
Okay.
And now it's June 24th.
No change.
No, June 24th.
And then the critical budget meeting coming up is what day?
August 12th.
12th.
And that one you need a quorum for sure.
Oh, you do?
Just let me, I can fly back for that. 'cause
We
I
do,
come back
we
for
do need to
something
have an
anyway.
in-person quorum.
Somebody just needs to let me know if I need to fly back.
Okay.
Well,
So that would be Belinda because you can't.
I will be here, Jill, you'll be
I'll be
here on the
here.
12th? Ernest, you going to be here on August 12th?
Sure, Mark.
He's got to talk to his boss.
Do you want me to call Dale and find out?
You know where he's gonna be.
We'll be off the video probably.
And Ken said he could fly back also,
Okay.
so.
All right, so we'll have,
So Belinda, you can coordinate with
we'll
us and
work.
let us know who's got to come back. Thank you.
we'll have a forum for that.
I did have something else, I don't know, Richard, you wanna, just as a quick reminder to everybody, Form 1s are due. Can't go past July, because then you'll receive a notification that you're not in compliance, and you could be subject to fines. Some of the feedback that we've received via the new method through the Ethics Commission is a lot of people are getting confused. There's a lot of back and forth when submitting. It requires a lot of patience from what I understand, and I think it's more because the instructions are, rather than filling out the PDF form that you used to fill out before, the instructions are coming on every time you have to submit data. So my recommendation would be to just stick with the process, try not to let your computer time out so that you're not having to go back to it if need be. But if you run into any problems, I know that the Ethics Commission representatives have been very thorough in responding to inquiries. I just, I have to do mine as well, so I know that it's gonna be a process, so just be patient.
This is the financial one.
But they're
Yes.
helpful, but they're helpful. They called.
They do, they do.
called
I
you
actually
back
had
And they talk to you.
it's true, we did.
A real
I had no
person.
problem.
Yeah.
I had no problem at all. Zero time.
I don't know if, I think it all depends. I had a supervisor in the office on Friday who, one of our staff members was working with, trying to assist through the process, and they actually had to call the Ethics Commission, and they were on the phone with them, but they were able to resolve the issue, with the Ethics Commission over the phone.
I didn't realize you had to do it electronically, so I'm glad you said that. 'Cause I
Well,
had
it's
the
a, it's a
form sitting here
requirement
that I have
now,
to-
because
That's a new
before,
change.
Oh, great.
so you should have gotten the link, and if you don't have the link in your email, check your spam box, because it might have gone into the spam.
All right.
You should use a computer. Don't try to use an iPad or anything like that. Because.
Belinda, can you resend that link to us?
You should have gotten a direct email from the Ethics Commission.
Yes, I did get that.
I do know that there are a few
That's right.
people who got it and it went into their spam box, or they moved it into another folder because they knew the deadline wasn't until July, so if you go into your spam, it should be there.
I can just send it to Rich, I have it, right?
Okay,
Thank you, Chris.
you should have it.
Okay.
But I think your link to log in is probably
Yeah, it
there.
might be.
You think it's for me?
Yeah.
It might be personal.
When did that come in?
What you can probably do is just take a screenshot. I can do that too. I can just take a screenshot of where he can go to contact the Ethics Commission.
I'll still send it to you and then you can decide what you need.
Check with junk.
Unless anyone had any questions for me? I did want to just let the board know, I'm still receiving emails from homeowners with requests for their insurance information from their insurance companies that have been successful in obtaining reimbursements for the assessment. Some are reporting back that they've received payment from their insurance companies, which was good to hear.
Yeah, I know several that have.
I've had some adjusters contact me. It's gone well for some.
And they were not canceled.
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I haven't spoken to anybody who's been canceled,
Yeah, I will leave it.
but I know of a few that have been very successful.
Not $4,000.
Any questions for me? Okay. So moving on, we're gonna close out staff reports and we're gonna move into item number 60, which is the discussion and consideration of the gate access traffic options. This is behind tab number 4 for your review.
Do we want to discuss that, or I know that Ken is no longer on.
He's not. Did he send, did I misunderstand? But I thought he said he sent a revision. Is there a revision to what we have, or is what we have the revision?
I think what we have is the revision, but I would like to talk about this and without Ken here, there's no way I could approve this.
So I'm going to suggest that we table that.
Thank you.
If you'd like, maybe during the next meeting where he's part of the workshop, you can probably have some sort of a presentation from the vendors.
Yeah, that would be good.
I would suggest that you have a visual of your selections first before you make a decision. Turnaround time would be a big thing too. So I definitely think you should probably maybe have the vendors present or ask for a PowerPoint presentation of the systems that they are recommending.
Can the vendors be available via Teams during the workshop?
They can, you can invite them to the meeting and they can speak via Teams.
And I could see them also remotely?
If you're on Teams, yes.
Okay.
Because the invite would be sent to everybody within the Teams.
That would be nice.
Is this for July?
Would it be July or
July
August? July?
July 8th, I guess.
So I'm gonna make myself a note to just ask Ken, and for Keith to work with the vendors to have them attend via Teams for questions.
Okay.
And then, whatever data you need, I think visuals are something that would be very important here.
Now, as far as, jumping ahead, as far as the Solitude contract,
So I don't know if you recall, we kind of touched on the renewal during the public hearing, the budget workshop.
Right.
So I was very close in the numbers because I estimated that they were gonna come back at a 4% increase. I was off by $2, I think, on the wetlands. So when I saw the numbers, I was surprised. But I was taken aback by this 6% annual escalation clause that they put in for the aeration systems. I know that the cost of replacement parts are climbing, but I wasn't expecting a 6% cost. We were just waiting on the actual renewal numbers to come back before coming back to the board with the information. But we also talked about possibly including native vegetation trimming events as part of your wetland maintenance, because you're currently undergoing a project to clean up several of these areas. It would be great to add as part of your request for a proposal cost for at least one native vegetation trimming event. So if you'd like for us to move forward, Solitude you can keep on a month-to-month basis. Right now you're doing work in the wetlands, but the wetland work is quarterly. So if you want to move forward month to month on the lake maintenance, you can, and that will give us the opportunity to work together a bid packet. I'd also like for Rick to provide us with the maps that we need so that the vendors have that information.
Okay.
And then we can send it out for bid and come back with competitive bids from other vendors.
Okay.
I will tell you that in this area, I have not seen issues with Solitude as I have seen in other areas where we've been experiencing some issues, and it's because of the change in staff. So here, I think they've been pretty redundant as it relates to their service. I haven't seen issues with the spray techs or issues with, the same team members being on site. But other locations, we are seeing that they're having a big change as it relates to their team members.
Okay.
But if that's the direction you want to go in, be perfectly happy
So
to do that.
stick with the monthly and prepare a bid.
Yes, we can prepare a bid, put it out for bid, and then come back to the board with proposals for not just the lake maintenance, but for the wetland maintenance, including a native vegetation trimming event, one per year. If you want more than one, we can ask for more than one as well.
I think we should do
So
that.
does our contract, I don't have it with me, does that allow for month to month after termination?
I gotta look at it, because here, they've changed their way of their contracts because they want to include escalation clauses in their contracts, and typically we don't.
We have our own here, I think, so.
So our form,
Okay.
Aren't we already on month to month, because isn't this a May 1st?
exactly,
Yeah,
so
we're kind of there.
they're fine with monthly services as long as we would sign some sort of a proposal that says we're monthly in the interim.
Good.
But we'll move forward with that and make sure that we bid it out and then come back to the board with bids from different vendors. And then just as a reminder, one thing I did not take into consideration when we prepared the budget on the property schedule side was any additional equipment that we add, eventually we'll have to endorse it and there will be an additional premium. So if you're gonna be adding that fountain, once we have the specifics, the cost, everything, we'll have to add the fountain to the property schedule, but it won't be a huge cost.
Well, we know, they gave us a quote on the 6 that we have.
No, I'm talking about the new fountain that you would add for the noise on the pickleball, not for maintenance, for insurance.
Oh,
For insurance. But I have not seen yet a 6% escalation clause on an annual basis for maintenance on aeration systems. That's a new one. We have not seen that yet.
Okay.
We just renewed one in Fort Myers and it was 4%. So that's a new thing. Mhm.
Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and we'll put together an RFP packet and we will bid this out and then come back to the board with proposals for consideration.
Okay.
Any questions on this item? And then I'll send Ken an email on the security options so that he knows exactly what to anticipate or what type of questions to anticipate at the July meeting. But you want the vendors, just for clarity purposes, at the workshop, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Or available online or whatever.
Well, we can invite them via Teams to attend the workshop.
That would be perfect.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be good.
Okay. Moving forward, we now have item number 7A, which is consideration of the minutes of the budget workshop held on April 22nd, 2024. These are behind tab number 6 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes as presented?
I have no additional changes.
There are no changes, we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make,
I heard Cheryl first. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Quick today.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We now have item number 6B, which is the consideration of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting held on May 13th, 2024. These are behind tab number 7 for your review. Are there any questions, comments, and/or changes to the minutes?
Yeah, Belinda, I've got one. When I went through and tracked the agenda against the minutes, there was an agenda item that was left off the minutes, and we did have some discussion. So even though we had covered some of the discussion in the workshop, I think that we need to have that discussion.
Which item?
So it was items on the May 13th agenda. It was discussion regarding hurricane recovery plans and assessment spending. It was 5F like Frank.
But it was discussed during the workshop or the regular meeting?
It was discussed during the workshop, but there was probably 5 minutes worth of discussion.
Okay.
So I think personally, I think we need it included because it's such a large item. I know I had asked for some clarification because we were talking about, I'm looking at my notes about what I said. We were talking about a landscape architect and that we'll get bids for a landscape architect and that we'd start on Medici and Laurel Road. So I think it's really important, given that it's.
I don't recall, to be honest, Joe.
I listened to it this morning. so
Yeah,
it's there.
I
So
don't
it's-
really recall,
Well,
and I might have missed on the note portion because I had a little medical emergency that
I
day.
know.
So I might not have taken a note of it if you said it, but we can go back to the tape as long as everybody.
It's 2 hours and 54 minutes on the video, if that helps, or that was on the video.
2:54.
Yeah, I think just because it's regarding the hurricane assessment and there was discussion about landscape architect, I think it's important.
We're gonna have that discussion again today under supervisor comments.
I still
So-
think, yeah, I get
Because
it.
we're trying to get a landscape architect.
No, I get it, but I still think the minutes need to be accurate.
It's up to you. You don't have to approve these today. We can go back to the tape and hear the discussion and then add whatever we need to.
Okay.
You can table
I think we
these.
should.
Fine. Why don't we table that and then
Okay.
just
Thank
review it
I
and
appreciate it.
All right, so we're gonna table these and then we'll go back and we'll just listen to the audio or go back to the video if need be, just to get some more clarification and make sure that the discussion's here.
Thank you.
So moving on to item number 7C, which is the ratification of the operation and maintenance expenditures for the month of April 2024. These are behind tab number 8 for your review. Are there any questions regarding the expenditures?
I don't have any questions.
There are no questions, we've been looking for a motion to ratify.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
We now have several consent items for your review. These are behind tab number 9. There are, 7 sets of minutes that are being provided for your acceptance. There are no questions. We've been looking for a motion to accept.
So moved. No, take Ernest. Ernest was first.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Before we leave that item, just a quick question. It's been an age since we've seen landscape committee minutes.
And they're getting submitted. I was thinking about that when I looked at this. And so we have landscape committee on Wednesday and I will review. Debbie left because she's the minute taker.
Okay.
I don't know why they're not showing up because we've been approving them
Oh.
and I think they're getting submitted. So I'm gonna go
Well,
back.
maybe
and
it's
check.
not the final step in the process, because I was curious, I went back, the last ones we have are from December.
I know.
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
It might just be the
Because I was
step in the
looking at that
process.
and it might be. So I will make
Yeah,
sure
they're
that
not
they're getting submitted appropriately. Because I think they're getting,
Maybe they're just not being sent in final form.
that would be my guess. Yeah. So I do have one question on social and dining, which I can also follow up with on Wednesday, but It was minutes submitted by girls. It's like in Star Wars language.
Oh.
Where did you see it? The very end of the social and dining. It's the very last page of what we've got. It says minutes submitted by, and then look at what it says.
Oh, wow. Where does it say? Print, maybe it's
All right,
Prince
there.
from the beyond.
Anyway, I'll follow up with them, but it is kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Anyway. So we accepted them, but we didn't have an alien present. for 15 minutes, just so you know.
It looks fine to me, sure.
Yeah.
Before I forget, supervisors, one item that I did not ask Rick was about the lake bank inspections. I think the water levels are fairly low now. I'm not sure where he is with that process, and that is something that we do need to get ahead of. So I'll send him an email just to remind him, just to give us a timeline more or less on the lake bank inspections, because we do need to make sure that the lakes are checked for erosion, and we have that on the radar for repairs as well if need be. Supervisor requests or comments? Are there any supervisor requests or comments, Cheryl?
I do have one. So Keith and I have been working on landscape architects, and I sent out formal requests for proposal to several, and radio silence. I gave them dates to have it back to me. I specifically said what I needed. It wasn't aggressive. I just want to know their pricing, their timing, how they select nurseries, that kind of stuff. I haven't heard a thing. And so I think we need to take this one step further, because we're going to be waiting, especially I'm worried about Medici, because that was next on, and we told everybody we were going to fix it. So I'm wondering if we can do
A formal R.
maybe not a P, maybe a Q.
Well, can't John Fowler help or John Toberg help? Because he certainly helped with the LMP.
Well, John Toberg is actually a landscape architect, and I think we should include him in the bids. I really do. I think
He
that
did
he
a
should be
great
one of the
job.
people.
How much do we anticipate spending?
That's a really good question, which is part of, I mean, I have a list of questions I asked, which I can send you. But I think it should be an RFQ, because I don't want it to be as formal as an RFP where we're stuck with the lowest bid.
Let me just check something, but I believe that it is. That is the requirement. Yeah, it's an RFQ. It's actually the CCNA process, like we follow for an engineer. So if you wanted us to do that, we can proceed.
So how would this work? So do you want to know, how do you determine
need a
what
scope.
questions you ask? Okay, so you want me to send you
Sure, yeah. we can-
something, and you can tell me what it doesn't meet, and I'll send you the rest of it.
Yeah, no problem. It'll probably be David Jackson from my office. He handles a lot of our procurement stuff. So if you want to send us what you have, we can put it in a RFQ format and work on it together. Be glad to.
Okay, perfect.
But I think we should get a motion now to direct staff to proceed with the RFQ process for a landscape architect.
I would make that motion as stated to direct staff to do RFQ for landscape architect services.
Second. That takes some of the work off of you too, having to, right?
Yeah, we have,
Reduce the complaints.
we've done it before, so we have a format and, we'll work with you to get the scope.
Perfect, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any other supervisor requests or comments?
We had asked Ken at the last meeting that he attended to put together some of his thoughts about the progress of the CDD based upon comments that have been passed around the community. And Ken put together two different, similar but different approaches. And I think I'm going to ask the supervisors to take a look at what Ken has if they haven't already. And I think that the suggestion was going to be to make any changes, possibly to maybe send them to Keith or send them to Belinda, who can then put it together and come up with, because we had said, send this letter out possibly with the notification of budget and whatever. So I think we need to get on it. How does everybody feel about that?
Is it a good idea to do it? I mean, is he expecting it? You know, he may have had some other things he wanted to say. So I guess my first question would be, should we wait until he can participate? I think that would be my first.
He asked us for comments.
That was gonna be my question, is can we send comments back to Belinda?
You can send comments to me and I can issue them to Ken. I just wouldn't, say, well,
You won't identify them.
exactly.
Right.
Just, there's a list of comments where you say, he won't know who they came from.
Okay.
And
So
should
there's
the
two
comments
things.
include which one?
There's two things. Which one do you want to use? And then any changes that you're suggesting on that? Would that be correct?
Yes.
Can I provide a couple of my thoughts on this, if I may?
Of course.
One of the things you mentioned, Rich, at the last meeting is that it could look political, and that's a concern that is a concern. Not political is the wrong way to put it, but the timing is a challenge. So I think I would question whether we should be doing this right now. I'm certainly not questioning anybody's motives. I'm just mentioning that. The second thing is, one of these versions mentions utilizing my blog to highlight meeting actions. I think it's the one that starts report on strategic direction and accountability. I'm going to insist that come out. My blog was started in 2020 and it's mine and mine alone, and not the board's.
I totally agree.
Okay.
Without question.
Fair enough.
I don't want to take ownership of your blog.
No, yes,
And-
yes, please.
And that was one of my comments there. That has to come out.
And I think to your comment, Jill, that's why I wanted included with the notice about the assessment.
Right.
Because I think if we do, especially like the report on strategic direction, this is very non-political. It says, we have a strategic plan. Not only is your assessment going down, but here's what's been accomplished. And I think this one is much less political.
I agree with you.
So
I agree with you, it is
yeah,
less.
yeah, so, okay.
Yeah.
I feel the same way on that. But, so how about if we set a date to send our suggestions to Belinda? Today is the 10th. And how about, is everybody comfortable having it done by the end of the week?
Sure.
By the 14th? Flag Day? Okay, so we're going to send our comments to Belinda by the 14th of June. Everybody good?
I'm good.
Any other supervisor requests?
Couple real quick things, you know. I wanted to update you all on the survey. They are still compiling the results, but there were 964 completed surveys.
How many got sent out? Three and change?
Oh, it was 3 and change, but I think that's actually a pretty good number.
So you got about a third back.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And then Julie and I are having a Zoom, I think this week, although you're only back from being away, so you may not know about it yet, but we're Zooming this week to talk to the vendor about, how we can get the results, how we, how we'd like them. My view is we have some kind of a top level, and maybe we can even get him to Teams in at our next meeting, I don't know, but I'll get some options on that. I'm going to work on the next version of the newsletter, and it will include the highlights from the budget, the proposed budget that we just approved. So I'm aiming to get that out fairly quickly, and I'll get that to Belinda. And then just one other quick thing, the LaSala work group is meeting every other week, and would like the board's permission or okay that we put a little note in the River Club newsletter to try to solicit people to join in focus groups. Those are going to start hopefully over the summer. It's going to be something that's going to take quite some time. The point of it will be to make sure people understand this is general information gathering. We don't want to start any rumors, but at the same time, we also want people to know that everybody is welcome to participate in the focus group. So it's not something that's just being in the dark of summer when a lot of people aren't here. So I wanted to just let you know that the group would like to do that, to start soliciting for focus groups.
I don't have a problem with that.
Just want to keep y'all in the loop.
It's fun.
Dandy dandy.
I was gonna ask what was going on with that group, so thank you for
It's,
that.
yeah, no, it's all good. And so, and Libby can update the social and dining. So, good. Okay, that's all I had.
Everybody else good?
Yep.
Yeah.
It is 12:51 PM. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Ernest?
Yes,
Keep out.
yes.
Okay.
No, I was reading it.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 12:51 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.